Nighty nighty. Ah, spaghetti. Ah, mamma mia.
Sonic Heroes. Nope, we're not doing that. I refuse. Sonic Heroes. Wait, please don't leave. Sonic Heroes. This is the first Sonic game I've ever played. Guess what, guys and gals? Time to reevaluate a game I haven't touched since childhood, and coming to terms with my happy, nostalgic feelings being muddled by the analysis of my jaded, adult, detail-oriented mind. Existential dread aside, I've been meaning to come back to this game for a while. There are so many habits I've formed and taken forward to many other games after because of this one. You know how they say you become like your parents? Well, Sonic Heroes is like the parent of video games for me. It was actually Fire Emblem Awakening that parented me instead of Sonic Heroes or my iPad. Thank you very much.
I said bye-bye. Okay?
As an example for what I mean when I say it built the foundation of my gaming habits, part of the reason I button mash is because of this game. It's half because it's not always the most clear what you're supposed to be doing, and half because I was a dumb kid. When I booted this game back up, I was mashing in the special stages and making the game harder for myself initially. Then I did something called critical thinking and attempted to hold the button. I got these results. As for a habit I didn't kick, instead of switching to power formation by just pushing one button, I'd mash the button twice to go through flying, then to power. Look, I may be a button masher, but how else was I supposed to beat my friend's older brother at Mario Party? My only option was to get good. If it wasn't obvious from how I'm casually expositing about my life, this analysis is going to be biased as all hell. Try as I might, my bias I cannot fight. No analysis can be objective. Subjectivity always sneaks its way in. Much like how the police investigate themselves and find no wrongdoing, I cannot separate myself entirely from my literal first Sonic experience. I will try my best, but bear in mind the perspective this comes from. Now that you know about my perspective going into this, let's talk how this analysis is going to go. This game is structured into 4 different campaigns, shown here. Team Sonic, Team Dark, Team Rose, and Team Chaotix. For those not in the know, all of these characters will go through the same 14 stages, but their objectives and actual level geometry differ. Team Sonic is your average playthrough on what we could consider a normal difficulty. Team Dark has things rougher, with harder, longer levels. Team Rose has the opposite. They have easier levels that are a hefty chunk shorter than the rest. And then Team Chaotix, the wild card. They have unique objectives. Some of them are hardly any trouble at all, while others can have you going back through the entire stage looking for one thing you missed. I won't get too into it here in the intro, I'm just outlining the structure of the game and to make my next point. Since all the characters go through the same stages, and the individual stories stage to stage have little or nothing happening between them that can't be summed up as Team Sonic decides it's time to go to the spooky castle, here's how we'll do things. We'll go over all the intros to start, then talk about Seaside Hill for all 4 teams. After that, Ocean Palace for all 4, and so on and so forth. Make sense? Great. Without any further ado, let's see the motivation for our heroes to set out on their adventures. Team Sonic has the most basic intro. Sonic styles on us with some tricks, and Tails and Knuckles fly over to deliver a message from Eggman. It's a video message within a piece of paper, which is odd, but Eggman could probably manage it with his IQ of 300 and all. The letter goads Sonic Heroes to try and stop him. It's really unlike Eggman to directly let Sonic in on his plans, but the heroes have no choice but to go off and investigate, ditching the Tornado 2 to crash and burn as they do. I'm sure they intended for us to assume it went on autopilot back to Tails' home or whatever, but I had canon the much funnier idea that Tails does this all the time, and we're on Tornado 64 at this point. While Team Sonic was as simple as, let's go fight Eggman, Team Dark has a lot more going on. We catch Rouge as she's breaking into Eggman's base for some sort of secret treasure he has. As she approaches the middle of the room, a foe awakens in the darkness and begins its approach. It analyzes both Rouge and what looks to be Shadow housed inside of a machine, and just as Rouge drains the tank to release him, he dives out to save her from a conveniently placed explosion. A robot is attempting to kindly apprehend Shadow with bullets, proclaiming he must eliminate all Eggman robots. That's odd. Shadow's not a robot.
Huh? My pussy in bio. What the? How did you know about my pussy?
Right before they're about to clash, Rouge steps between them and gets them to chill out. Omega, the very angry yet familiar-looking robot, is just pissed at Eggman for locking him in this room, and Shadow has no memories. Rouge concludes that they should work together to find Eggman, and she pulls them in for a cute little handhold. Compared to Team Sonic's light intro that more so acts as a display of basic character traits, as well as some snazzy Sonic sass, Team Dark has motivations beyond wanting to do right by the world. This doesn't make them inherently better than the other groups, but them offering some more depth, a brand new mainstay character, and a reintroduction to the beloved Shadow, they're undeniably the most hype and interesting guys to play as in Sonic Heroes. Despite these heavier character hooks to get them invested in pursuing Eggman, not much is done with it until the end of the campaign. There's heaps of foreshadowing and inferring story from paying close attention to details throughout the game, but from most level to level transitions, not much is going on. Team Rose opens on Amy and Cream chillaxing by the water's edge, with her wistfully sighing while checking out the news. Apparently, Sonic's in the business of stealing Chow and Froggy. A gust of wind sweeps the paper away, and Cream attempts to grab it before it flies off. Her Chow, Cheese, manages to catch it in her place, and Cream politely reminds Amy to be more careful with their only clue. Another rogue gust of wind nearly blows Cream away, but just in the nick of time, Big casts out his trusty fishing line to catch her. Now all settled, they look over their only clue, and Amy rallies the group together to go look for Sonic, Froggy, and Chocola. The clue shows Sonic taking them both, so the group is mostly just pursuing Sonic for now. I don't think it was ever established how Big became friends with the two before now, but he's a good fit for them. Did you know that, apparently, back in the planning stages for Sonic Heroes, the original Team Rose was going to have Rouge as its power type? Team Girl would have been interesting to see, but I can't imagine why they would be working together. It might have been too much baddie for one team to handle. We all know Sonic wouldn't have taken Chocola or Froggy, but Amy wanting to track down Sonic to clear the air makes plenty of sense as a story starter. They find him, and maybe Sonic helps them find their missing friends. Makes total sense to me. For our fourth and final team, Team Chaotix has bills to pay, so when Charmy buzzes in with work for them via a walkie-talkie claiming they need their services, they jump at the chance to make some cash. SBO voices his concerns, but Vector pushes them aside because money talks. Follow his lead out, and that's about it, really. This mysterious walkie-talkie man is curious, but their story resolves at the end of their campaign the same as the rest do. Overall, I believe each team has a strong hook that is interesting enough to get their story started. I would comment more about Team Sonic being so simplistic, but I think there's a beauty in their simplicity. You just get right into it, no questions asked. Speaking of, why don't we get right into the gameplay? Seaside Hill would normally start us off, but when you pick Team Rose for the first time, they throw you through a mandatory tutorial. We may as well start there while I go over aspects of the gameplay, before also having to split my attention with the accompanying level designs.
Listen to me carefully, and you will learn a lot.
Oh geez, if you thought Omochao was obnoxious before, this whole start and stop tutorial will make you despise him. Or them. It's multiple, right? Hold on. Before I rag on this tutorial for its shortcomings aplenty, I will give it some credit. Nothing is ever so bad that there's not some silver lining to be found. It is informative when it comes to the basic information. It's very heavy-handed, but that's for a purpose. Sonic Heroes' gameplay doesn't look all that complicated if you watch someone else play, but when you try to get good at the game yourself, the execution required from you really amps up as the game goes on. It's a solid difficulty curve, but I also realize that comes from bias as somebody who's played games for over 2 decades now. Also, playing Sonic Heroes well is fun and satisfying, but much like Sonic Adventure 2's mech gameplay style, it's jank and doesn't operate as smooth as it should. The tutorial teaches you about the different formations, the homing attack, rings, which aren't one of the first things you learn for some reason, the rocket itself, the level up system, how to fly, thundershoot, how buggy landing on a platform can be, How to destroy is the power formation combo attacks, and team blast. Whew, quite a mouthful, right? On a surface level, with all the different concepts they covered, you'd think they got all of it. Nope, nowhere close. Simply put, the way the rest of the game feels subtly and not so subtly tutorialized throughout shows this, but let's nitpick one thing as an example. The combo attacks, it's just mashing B when you're a high enough level. I did notice Knuckles could do a flurry of punches when I was testing him out, but I didn't even entirely understand how my inputs led to this move when I was successful. Doesn't matter much because it's not a really strong move to use, but it's still there and I don't know how to do it. I've got a bit more to say before we start this playthrough. Divide the teams down the middle into two categories. Team Sonic and Dark are on one side, while Rose and Chaotix are on the other. The fly formation remains consistent between all teams, but the speed types and power types differ massively between categories. Big and Vector are able to do a bounce attack when they attack in the air, while Knuckles and Omega shoot their teammates instead when airborne. All power types have a 3-hit combo that varies in usefulness, so that remains the same. But Big and Vector are much less mobile than Omega and Knuckles. They fire off their friends from afar while on the ground, while the other two get up close and personal. It changes combat a lot, and while I don't have a huge preference, Knuckles and Omega definitely have the superior moveset to me. The belly bounce is a worse trade-off than having the option to throw your friends, or not, when attacking. See, with the ranged attacks, you have an ammo count of 2, and in the early game, the characters tend to come back to you rather quickly. However, if the other characters get hurt during their attack, which increasingly becomes a problem as bots get bigger and bigger health bars, they lay on the ground for a moment recovering, leaving you with a dinky melee that will probably have you losing rings. Also, when the characters you don't control are in the injured state, you cannot switch to them. This causes tons of problems with inconsistency, and if you pair that with the AI that struggles to act the same way 3 times in a row, the whole game ends up feeling like an inconsistent struggle. And look, it's my childhood experience I'm reviewing here. I wish I could praise the game endlessly and call it a hidden gem, but from my point of view, it has serious problems that hold it back from greatness. It has great aspects, which I will get to, but the controls and physics, as well as the partner AI, are not one of them. They are something that could be fixed, but they aren't. Back to talking about the differences in the teams, Team Sonic and Dark's speed characters act differently as well. Neither Espio nor Amy can do the light speed dash, so their levels lack lines of rings to follow. Also, Sonic and Shadow control very similarly, with both of their tornado moves being identical. This is important because if you hold the jump button after a tornado, you get additional height and can still homing attack afterwards. It's useful movement tech that the other teams don't have access to, but it doesn't hold them back too much. That's just me skimming the surface with some additional details that aren't ever explained very well in this tutorial. Let's flip that coin to the other side though, because I want to talk about how this tutorial fails at engaging the player at all. Remember how I praised Sonic Adventure 2's City Escape for silently tutorializing many aspects of its movement? Well, this one stops you every step you take. In particular, you can accidentally skip some of the dialogue if you attempt to jump just as you hit a trigger for yet another tutorial. Objectively bad design. Not only that, but this tutorial is forced on you when you play Team Rose. No matter when you select them, you could even select them last out of the 4 campaigns, and you will have to do it all the same. It's short and can be mashed through, but the game doesn't give any indication which team you should play first, except for Omochao here, which is an optional button press that I'm sure many people missed.
Team Rose is recommended for those who are new to action games.
Most people are going to pick Team Sonic since, you know, it's the leftmost one and the game is named after him. I can tell you I played it left to right as a kid, and I was confused to say the least. Wow, new level got replaced with, oh, a very late forced tutorial. I won't yap longer than the actual tutorial itself, so let's move on to Seaside Hill. I've got plenty of positive things to say about the actual level themes, design, and gameplay within the levels themselves. A single path forward with booster panels sends you off with a start. Much like City Escape, There's something here to do if you've already experienced this level, and it's attempting to enter power formation and having everyone hit their respective trick ring for points. This will not work plenty, but I want to focus on other things for the time being. You need to hold forward to hit the trick rings, so this small area with ring boxes is one 9 out of 10 people skip, but it does prompt you to go through each formation to feel things out. Notice this homing attack? I was not intending to go there, but it sucked me right over like a vacuum. The homing attack was buffed up over time until what we've got now with the clear indicator, and it's a great modernization that needs to stick around, even if it does gamify things. This loop has 2 goodies on the outer bits of it, and you get both by hitting power formation, so everyone lines up to enter their own loop. Seems easy and intuitive, right? It works great here in a controlled environment, but you'll see it doesn't stay that way throughout the game. Let's admire some details of the level. The ground itself has arrows encouraging you onward up until you get to this first turn. The characters themselves will chat and directly state who would be best to handle the challenges ahead. This is what I meant by saying the game tutorializes itself. For the average player, it either becomes annoying or white noise you filter out, but for a brand new player, maybe it helps. They do this sort of thing up until the final level though, saying the same dialogue over and over. Too much negativity to start. Time to talk about the strongest part of Sonic Heroes, its level design. There are 2 monitors here prompting power or fly, and the game is allowing you to tackle this challenge in multiple ways that you see fit. When we conquer this obstacle, there are even more options before us. Go an upper path with a fly character, or run down a slope with the speed character. Sonic Heroes is always providing you with options to proceed, and some of them are rather hidden or out of the way. The different character abilities lend themselves to designing a variety of obstacles that clearly signpost who you need to proceed in that direction. It's intuitive, simple fun that can make every playthrough of these levels feel unique. Considering the game has you play through every level 4 times to get 100%, these stages needed to have this much variety. Not all of them have enough, but these early ones definitely do. Something you've likely seen me frequently doing up until this point is using Thundershoot on the 3-man springs to get a ring bonus. Ideally, you could run into these as Knuckles, but the other characters just don't hit the spring with you. They wait down there or do whatever it is they're doing when they're off screen. I found it easier to Thundershoot it until the game decides to have the character bounce between all 3 springs. How about this for a bug? After using Team Blast, the camera breaks. Did I mention this game's camera is a bit dicey? There are multiple points where I'm fighting against it or having a panic attack because it switches angles suddenly and without warning. It's not all the time, but in the places where it's not working, it's really bad. Cannons deserve their own highlight. Depending on which formation you enter them as, you get sent somewhere else entirely. As the power formation in particular, you can actively control where you and your friends are fired off to. It's great stuff. When you see a cannon, you know there's probably more than one way to proceed forward. See this very minor use of the extra height I got from the tornado? It lets Sonic clear a section meant for Tails. There's many applications for this, I'm sure you can imagine. As we shoot up this hill, we get another semi-frequently used gimmick, the bobsled. I like it as a game changer that introduces some high-speed action that is more controllable than running around as a speed character. You can brake, but who does that? And move left and right to collect the rings along your path. As a harmless introduction to the idea, it's great here. Later, it can become frustrating, and younger me, who never ever pumped the brakes, definitely lost many lives to it. Let's pull back from the Team Sonic focus to see what the other teams are up to on their venture through this stage. Team Rose chops off the early part of the level as well as the end, making their playthroughs of all stages much shorter. They tend to interact with gimmicks less often as well, and they give us a glimpse of what a shorter stage format could have been like in Sonic Heroes. Some of these stages get long, so if you're not a fan of the length, maybe try Team Rose. They're like a Sonic Heroes light experience. As we saw before, they start on the beach with the cannon. It keeps the levels somewhat more fresh, even if adjusting the starting point doesn't change too much. It beats playing through the same level 4 times in the exact same way at least. You can see me attempting to use power formation to hit the spring, but to no avail. The AI of your teammates create more frustration than you can really realize from just watching, I assure you. Also, if your teammates are actively ball formed up, they can't hit the other parts of the spring, so you end up having to switch formations anyways. Look, Sonic Heroes has tons of goodies you can run around the map and find. Running to the end of the level as fast as possible is not the way to get your A ranks here. Going around to meticulously collect power-ups and ring boxes boosts your score plenty, and rings fill up the Team Blast gauge. The more time you spend platforming around to find goodies, the less you spend fighting enemies impeding your path forwards with a quick Team Blast. Nitpick, but why did they change checkpoints to be a singular spot rather than a line across the path? Was anyone complaining? With a game this fast, having it cross the whole span of the walkable terrain here isn't too high of an ask, is it? To touch on Team Blast some more, they can either be seen as a pace killer or a pace preserver. Maybe it's both. I feel like their cool factor and satisfaction of downing a whole group of enemies all at once outweighs the slowdown. The whole game is designed to be start and stop, but still emphasize speed, if that makes sense. Even if you stop to defeat enemies in your way, the task of dispatching them can be sped up by smart play. Saving a Team Blast for the right moment freezes the clock, so it doesn't negatively impact your time bonus. All of the Team Blasts do something different. Sonic's allows him to use an alternate blue tornado while the Team Blast gauge is cooling down. Team Dark freezes time with Chaos Control. Just hope there's not a door in your way, because that door will remain closed until the time stop ends. Team Rose's Team Blast is the most busted, giving themselves invincibility, a shield, and a level up for each member. Team Chaotix is less broken, but more spammable, as each foe defeated by their Team Blast gives them rings aplenty to fuel another one. All of them nuke the screen, and they're easy to get plenty of if you go out of your way to look for more rings. Use them liberally when there's 3 or more enemies in your way. Don't let it be like the Master Ball that sits in your inventory forever, waiting for that perfect moment to use it that never comes. Team Chaotix is, collecting 10 hermit crabs as their main objective? Yeah, their mysterious client wants to test their abilities. I don't know, man. Looking for specific things in these stages can be fun, but due to the stages being a linear affair, it can get annoying and frustrating fast if you miss something. I don't know, man. Looking for specific things in these stages can be fun, but due to the stages being a linear affair, it can get annoying and frustrating fast if you miss something. Sometimes their objectives require them to not miss a single thing across the stage, and if you happen to overlook something around the middle, you'll reach the end, get teleported back to the beginning, and have to scour the level you fully traversed to find the 1 or 2 things you missed. It's a massive buzzkill no matter which way you slice it, and they could have fixed this by making sure every collecting objective had more than what was needed present in the level. Some levels do have more than enough, but not all do. Team Dark has a playthrough very similar to Sonic's, thankfully. Their stages are around the same length, if not a little bit longer. They're made a lot longer as the game gradually goes on, however, due to an abundance of enemies to fight. People like to say that Team Sonic is normal mode, Dark is hard mode, and Rose is easy mode, but there's more to it than that. Team Rose is definitely just an easy mode with shorter levels, but between Team Sonic and Dark, I'd say Sonic focuses more on platforming, while Team Dark focuses more on combat. Team Dark still has more difficult platforming, and there's some super sick shortcuts I got as them that were difficult to execute on, but Final Fortress, tons and tons of enemies. I think this is backed up by the game's challenge mode for each team. Team Sonic has to go through levels fast, while Team Dark has to defeat a certain amount of enemies. I did not play them for this playthrough since 100%ing this game might have ended me, but I remember doing them as a kid and suffering. Team Dark's egg fleet had me hunting down over 200 enemies if I'm remembering correctly. Ugh. The additional amount of enemies means you level up quicker at least. Look at how many enemies there are even in this first level. Omega really embodies Team Dark's whole game plan.
Kill!
Shield enemies are something I never end up attacking correctly. I find the process of hitting multiple enemies with the tornado to remove their shields takes longer, so I brute force it with attacking them until they are destroyed. Is there a way to cancel out of the tornado attack? Maybe if it was larger and drew grounded enemies into it? Now that'd be a wonderful level up bonus. And after playing some more, I realized that the level 3 for speed characters gives their homing attack the tornado property. I use it all throughout the game to quickly ascend poles. What exactly each power-up does is something that could have been useful to put in a tutorial somewhere. Wait, You know what? It's probably in the manual. Well, flipping through it really quickly, I don't see it anywhere. Still, maybe I'm at fault and missed this information somewhere. The Rocket XL is significantly better to use on Team Sonic and Dark than the other two. Unfortunately, for some reason, Amy and SBO do an attack instead of increasing their speed if you accidentally use the other move on the same button in this formation. Amy's is by far the worst, since it halts all forward momentum instantly. The Rocket XL is only mandatory in one spot on the Egg Fleet, thankfully, because it's the move that can mess your game up the most if it doesn't go off. Your AI teammates can just decide to not group up behind you. To touch on the design of Seaside Hill, it uses the iconic orange and green associated with a certain other green hill. However, it goes well beyond that, sprinkling in blocks and platforms of white and red, as well as using the sandy colors of the beach and the cool blue of the ocean to really make it its own. My favorite part are the islands in the distance that are shaped like the sea life Sonic would rather not get acquainted with. As the level goes on, you progress towards more man-made structures found more prevalently. Why do I always get so friggin' tongue-tied? As the level goes on, you progress towards more man-made structures found more prevalently in Ocean Palace. Really helps with that feeling of going to two connected places, rather than teleporting from area to area without a care for continuity. It's not a necessary factor to make any Sonic game good, but it's another cherry on top I enjoy that makes it better. These extra details always make me love games more than cutting-edge graphics or the hottest new FOMO skins in the Battle Pass. Woohoo! I love golden whatever. Oh boy. So, to anyone who thought the half pipe was bad in Sonic 2, the full pipe in Sonic Heroes has to be the worst special stage I have ever experienced. The formula is not the issue, but the execution is straight booty cheeks. Unless you are some Sonic Heroes freak, the special stages will come for your cheeks. Do we consider this the earliest iteration of the boost formula, by the way? What a long way it's come. You collect balloons along the path to increase your boost gauge in the upper right. It has 3 levels, but in all honesty, I've got no clue what a higher level does for the player. To even get here in the first place, you have to grab the key and not lose it. That is more difficult to task than you might think, because one hit and the key is gone. The only team it's easy with is Team Rose because their stages are short, and their Team Blast provides them with a ton of shields and invincibility to safeguard it. As the other teams, good luck getting through a 7-minute level completely unharmed. To be fair, there are multiple keys per stage, but this game, you get hit a lot, unfortunately. To get back to the special stage, the game controls well enough when you're going down a straightaway in these tubes, but if you start taking turns, enjoy losing all of your speed, or randomly losing huge chunks of it. Turning to where you want exactly is super sensitive, and on turns, it's just not possible. It's a constant wrestle with the controls to get them to do what you want. And guess what? This version of the stage is optional. Yup, it's only for 1-ups. Only the second act of each zone has the mandatory Chaos Emerald chase if you want to see the final story. How could they fix this? Simple. Make it so if, as an example, you moved up left on your analog stick, the character would move up there. If you then pointed it straight right, your character would move the shortest path towards the right. You'd have to remove the sharp turns and all the wonky camera movement, but it would at least function this way. That's the most important thing for any game. Now, get me out of that tube of doom already. Onto Ocean Palace. Team Sonic flies in to start off the level, starting it with that exciting pace I love. The level geometry is now dominated by the Ocean Palace structures with sprinklings of green. Arrows on the path still point you forwards, and I somehow missed all 3 rings.
Oh no!
One of this level's gimmicks is punching in the palace doors to progress. It's a great application of the level's themes into gameplay. Simple as that. There are these blocks that will smush you if you carelessly run into them. Avoid them by not doing that. You will always see them well before they drop, so don't just hold forward and get crushed. Take it from Kid Me, you need to learn to pump the brakes at least sometimes. They call this move the triangle dive. What a creative name. It's a fine enough mechanic, but initiating a triangle dive can be finicky. It works once you're doing it, but don't try to use it to get anywhere outside of instances with fans. The glide drops off massively after a few seconds, and you drop like a rock. Stick to flying formation for any gaps or pay the consequences, trust me. This section here with the turtles and cannons is exactly the example I would use to show the variety of paths available to the player in Sonic Heroes. I don't know if any other Sonic game can compare to all the alternate ways forward here. Every time you enter the cannon, you can choose to do it as speed, flying, or power formation, and each will send you to a different turtle island. It's not just 3 separate paths for the different formations, but each island with another cannon offers you 3 more branches. Not every single island offers you 3 different ways forwards, but it's a crazy amount of variety that lets you tackle this section almost any way you like. Sonic Heroes is like this all throughout, giving you multiple ways forward with the abundance of tools at your disposal. The variety does dial back as the game goes on, but at the beginning here, it's excellent. Sonic Heroes is at its strongest in moments like these, especially when there's little to no risk of accidentally slipping off the platforms you're on. Once you've got 2 levels in flying formation, it becomes the easiest and fastest way to dispatch groups of scrub enemies like these egg pawns. It's almost too strong, truthfully, but the enemies get tougher as you go on, so you can't thundershoot in every situation, just most of them. They build off of the storytelling of the Sonic Adventure 2 levels with a set piece to round off Team Sonic's Ocean Palace. The giant rock is spiky looking with a teeth-like design on it, and I can't help but think it's made this way to mock Sonic. Do you see what I mean when you really look at it? Oh, by the way, you thought 1 rock was bad enough to run away from? How about 2? How about 3? It's a tense run even when you know the game, because it doesn't dynamically adjust its distance from you like the gun truck does. However, SA2's City Escape is a stronger set piece due to the music shift as it happens, and the plot relevancy of Sonic being chased down by the government. This isn't to say this is bad by any means though. Sometimes, a rock chases you and it's scary. That's it. Team Rose cuts us off the fun initial running section and throws us right at the door to break it down.
Ooh, that brother's falling.
Ooh, I love the way that Amy and Cream hang off of Big when gliding. Also, them sitting on his big shoulders when he's preparing to launch them off at their opponents is also quite adorable. It communicates the relationship they have and their trust they've got in their big friend. He's a big, sturdy dude, and they completely trust him. These animations clearly show their close bond as friends, and Sonic minimizing the relevancy of his friends after Sonic 06 is a huge, huge shame. Post Sonic 06, the lack of Sonic's friends made the worlds feel smaller and less lived in. I'm honestly so happy to see we're reintroducing the rest of the cast being playable again with Superstars, Dream Team, and Frontiers. Sometimes, the keys are off the beaten path, but other times they're thrown right in your face. I don't understand it, but the latter tends to happen in the later levels where things are more hectic, so maybe it's actually a blessing in disguise. Team Rose's section ends really early, right before you get to experience the set piece and just after the turtle section. It's a huge shame that their levels get trimmed down to the point that they miss the exciting parts, but going through these exciting parts 2 or 3 times instead of 3 or 4 might be another blessing in disguise. I've actually been really enjoying the shorter levels as them. If I were to play through one campaign only, like on a weekend with a limited amount of time, I'd either play as them or Team Sonic to get that nostalgia hit.
Here's your next mission. A chow is lost in the find and rescue that chow.
We all know who this is, right?
You little fuck.
Why in the world is he having them do anything short of coming to rescue him? Beyond that weird bit of story and gameplay incongruency, the chaotic searching for a chow makes this level no different than any other team's objective. Instead of a goal ring, they collect the chow to end the stage. When you start to see the objectives they get later on, you're going to wish they were easy like this. Did you know these 3 playing instruments is actually a deep cut into Vector's backstory? Yeah, Vector originally existed in his concept stage as a member of Sonic's band. I'm glad parts of his origin got preserved through these goobers, even if their gameplay is the most inconsistent and by far the worst. Their lows are real low, let me tell you. You'll see. Editing WeebBear here. I don't know how else to say this other than I forgot to do Team Dark's portion of Ocean Palace. I go over this later on, but Team Sonic and Team Dark's levels are incredibly similar, and that's how I'm guessing I made the mistake. Nothing too special was missed in the grand scheme of things, so onto the emerald. Check out how fast I get the first emerald. Did you know I used to spam the boost button? Yes, I used to mash, but then when doing a test run before recording, I tried holding the button. I believe the reason I thought I needed to mash was the prompt for the B button vibrating like this. Just look at it. That looks like a prompt to mash to me. The urge to mash here based on the visual feedback couldn't have just been me, right? Oh, would you look at that? Hedgehog. I need to speak about how these boss fights are set up. What makes these boss fights so different than other Sonic bosses across the series is their multiple parts you can attack. It's very easy to brute force and ignore most of the other parts on the boss, but you might notice that the wings have their own health bar as well as the cockpit. The inner part of the wings share a health bar with the cockpit, as you'll see later. Sometimes, these fights will go like this. Level 3 flying formation destroys when the characters bounce between multiple weak points like this. In this fight in particular, if you attack the outer wings, which have much lower health bars, it causes the Hedgehog to be unable to do its rotary attack when it stops and normally spins. However, most of the boss fights can be brute forced without strategy once you manage to catch up to them. They pull a Sonic Advance 2 and have you chase after Eggman, and in truth, I'm a huge fan of these. If they practiced less bottomless pits all over the level design, these boss fights would be solid.
Bob, there you are. Dude, we've been looking for you everywhere, dude.
Dude, Bruce
It's 2 in the morning.
Like all of Sonic Heroes though, some bugs and inconsistencies could be ironed out to make these fights better. Hedgehog is pretty inoffensive, but the later boss fights suffer from major issues that cause unfair deaths more often than they should. An inconsistency with the character AI that works in your favor on these boss fights is your teammates getting stuck and repeatedly damaging the boss like this. This is something I more clearly show off on Egg Emperor, but you can see here that Vector doesn't come back for a hot minute. All 3 formations requiring their teammates for actions, and the inconsistent AI sometimes leaves you high and dry, waiting for them to return from whatever magical trip to Narnia they took in the meantime.
So, you're the ones who are playing games with my army.
Primary target detected. Destroy Dr. Eggman.
You must only... Is that any way to treat your creator? Now witness your master's real power.
If you read into Eggman's dialogue here, and how he says, "So you must be Omega," and "witness your master's power," those are clear indications this isn't Dr. Eggman. Tricksy double meaning there. Me likes. For Team Dark's run, I tried mashing on the boss as fast as I could, and doing this was like connecting with my younger self. All this design and attempt at complexity, but me want to push button quickly. I don't know how many times I pushed a button, but I definitely pushed it. Love the frozen egg pawn bullet photobombing me, by the way. They don't clear the scene of all actors, just pause it and throw the character to a designated strike a pose location. If you've watched Metropolis Mayhem, you've had your brain chemistry permanently altered. I cannot, for the life of me, go through these levels without humming the lyrics to myself in my brain. These roads increase our speed. How much could you possibly need? Guys, stop. No, I won't do it. I must control myself. The main gimmick of Grand Metropolis are these blue roads that increase your speed. Occasionally, robots will have a road on lockdown, preventing your progression until you restore power to the roads. Eggman said to be siphoning the energy from them for his own nefarious purposes. Holding up traffic is a crime that cannot be forgiven. Arrest this man. Does anyone else associate this zone with Metropolis Zone from Sonic 2? They share a general theme and green as their main color, but I always like to imagine this would have been the outside of the factory you run through in Sonic 2. You know, if we had seen it. It's almost like they can give a fresh coat of paint to new zones instead of reusing Green Hill all the time. I think the game just hates me sometimes. The switches you need to stop and push are finicky to get a grab on, and they're one of the few things in this game I would call an unnecessary pace killer. When they're up above and you need to use flying formation to get them, sure, that's a platforming challenge in a sense, but when they're right beside the door they open, there's no challenge there, and to me, a pointless obstacle. Not going for them is an option sometimes, but I like engaging with the game's push for exploration to get more points. The switches you need to stop and push aren't a meaningful deviation and are needlessly frustrating with how precisely you need to line up with them to push them. Or pull them. Don't you dare start splitting hairs with me now. It would be nice if attacks directed at a bot holding a shield while facing away allowed you to KO it quickly. This game has a slight stealth system that they use sparingly, thankfully, but it's bad visual feedback in my opinion to hit an opponent when their shield isn't protecting them and have it not count. It would add an additional, well-appreciated layer to the combat that would make it more interesting to engage with. Did anyone else swing their control stick around when going up the poles because they thought they had to? I thought I would fall if I didn't as a kid. No clue what could have informed that imaginary rule.
When grinding, use the B button to accelerate and the control stick to balance.
Child voice actor, everyone. I don't hold anything against Tails' voice actor, William Corkery. Voice acting was super inconsistent back in the day, and I don't know about you, but getting an 8-year-old to specifically deliver a line with a certain tone isn't an easy feat. Definitely place the blame on Sega. Amy actually starts at the same point in the level for once. This downward slope was too cool not to let everyone enjoy a run down. Love the Rocket Excel so much. Look at how the characters vibrate uncontrollably at these high speeds. It's like their AI is being pushed to the absolute limit. At any moment, they'll slingshot off the path and disappear into the void if they don't hold on for dear life. What is Team Rose's Team Blast anyways? Wiggling together on top of Big's umbrella? Destroying their enemies with flower power? Also, where do they make fishing poles that double as umbrellas? Never realized how weird that is until now. Tell me, what does this add to the gameplay? Teaching us we sometimes need to push more than one switch to open doors? That's all I can possibly think of. It's not a big deal because they aren't used in abundance, but it likely contributes, even in a small way, to people disliking the stop and start nature of Sonic Heroes. It's a crumb of fat that could be cut from the package to make it slightly better. Does anyone see how Big is riding along the rails? Yeesh. I can't imagine what that does to a man, giving me the chills. Their level ends shortly thereafter, so let's see what Team Chaotix's objective is.
Here's your next mission. Destroy all of Eggman's robots holding the city. Every single one of them.
Considering Team Dark's entire challenge mode is axing a set amount of enemies, it feels weird to see this here. Then again, it's unlikely you've even tried any of Team Dark's challenge missions up until this point. It's not too out of place an objective, but notice how the objective said all, they mean all. Miss one or two like I did, and you'll be sent straight back to the beginning. Objectives like this need some indicator of some kind, or at least not be a linear trip through a level. You'd be surprised how easy it is to accidentally go by an enemy or two. I say all that, but it's a fine enough mission. You could make the argument that it's simply a skill issue, but when it feels like the game cheaped out or cheated you in some way, like making you repeat a large chunk of a level because you missed something, resentment builds regardless. Is it possible I'm saying this at such length because I could be hinting at something in the future? No, I'd never do that. By the way, there are these flowers Charmy can interact with, teleporting you to a later part of the stage usually. Just how Amy's levels are shorter, making it so you aren't going through every single area as every team, these flowers change the flow of the stages a small amount. Sure, it's only skipping around the same level geometry, but it's still appreciated. Did you catch which two I missed? Thankfully, they weren't too far into the level. I'll give you another few seconds to guess. And there they were. Imagine if they had been 2/3 through the level or something worse. I definitely can't recall a memory of child me having to repeat a level twice to find a single... Terminate all robots regardless of their purpose? Damn, Omega, that's cold. Even the innocent worker bots?
Kill.
Oops. Looks like all my hard work building up my score is lost due to one poorly aimed Homing attack. That's just wonderful. Getting back to this spot, I believe it's a completely unique path that only Team Dark traverses. Team Sonic normally takes a path to the left that is currently powered off. It's a minor deviation, but I wish more of the levels had spots unique to each team. It would have increased their workload, but if they wanted people to play this 4 times, that effort helps. Power plant, huh? We've still got the powered roads, but now we've got spears to roll around in and vertical versions of the roads. Rising blocks too, but those are markedly less cool. The inside of the power plant even has these arrows pointing you forwards just like Seaside Hill. I've got to hand it to the Sonic Heroes devs. They were really cooking up some great stage themes and designs. Despite it being visually similar, you can tell this is a different place entirely, balancing that fine line of connectivity to the prior act, but maintaining individuality as its own second act. I don't think there's been a game since Sonic Heroes where I was so scared to fly. The flight gauge drains only as you move horizontally, and from how these balloons are spaced, you can tell it isn't much wiggle room at all. Not all that much flying in a formation called flying, really. It wouldn't roll off the tongue as well if it was called, oh, I don't know, insurance policy type. Save me from this game's physics throwing me off in an unpredictable direction type. Sorry, Sonic Heroes, I'm being mean. It's okay. An auto-scrolling section? In my Sonic game, it's actually not that bad. They're very short, and there's power-ups to grab during your ascent. I could collect these red balloons all day. I wish reality had red balloons you could pop for money. Now I'm just sad. Part of the success and memorable stage design of this game is the variety of quality gimmicks present. To make my point, look at how far they've gone with the minor detail of orange being a power source here. They're used for the roads that Eggman siphons from, and we've now got floating orange balls of doom. Earlier, we had the big roads that filled up as they fell, doors with tubes along their sides that filled up with the orange fuel source, and even these rising pillars are filled with it. They got a ton of use out of this single gimmick by making blockades and platforms utilize it in a small, unique way all throughout the stage. Look again, the elevator's centerpiece also has it. Neat. What a neat game. Oh god, it's the revenge of the ominous orange energy goo. Until paying closer attention today, I thought it was generic lava rising, but no. Want another neat detail? The walls are numbered, and as you ascend, the numbers count down to 1 before shooting you out the top. If you notice this, you'll be able to anticipate when you'll hopefully escape the end set piece of the stage. I like to think Sonic and friends managed to clear the influence of the remainder of Eggman's forces, thus freeing up the city's power source to go back to serving the city. They just happened to get in the way of it refueling. I've gotten a whole new appreciation for Metropolis Zone as a whole package now. Wow. Team Rose starts on an elevator, and if you play your cards right, you can start progressing with a level 3 cream. I still don't entirely know how to feel about the leveling system at this point in the game. Having to regain them every level, as well as losing them if you fall off the stage, feels awful, but it does also give destroying enemies an additional reward. All the times you can go off the beaten path would be a little less sweet if you could only get rings, shields, invincibility, and the rare speed-up shoes. The level ups feel good to get, but I don't know. Would it be better if, instead of losing character strength, the extra levels allowed each type to release a unique special attack, thus expending the level? We can bring the characters to a middle ground consistent strength, but the power-ups give you a single use of a worthwhile special attack. I can already envision the speed type making a larger tornado that groups up the enemies and rids multiple robots of their shields at once. Can't think of anything for the other two, but if anyone watching wants to brainstorm with me, feel free to leave your suggestions or ideas about this system in the comments. I could easily see this making combat more interesting with another button to push, as well as giving even more value to exploring once you've gotten to level 3 on every character. My system would be easier to understand too, I imagine. No passive buffs to abilities, just energy for a special attack. The Chaotix on this level need to destroy 3 golden turtle robots to proceed. The gold turtles don't pose any challenge, and they stick out like sore thumbs. If you've been paying attention, you see I'm horrible at hitting these targets in a timely fashion. Please tell me this one isn't just me, right? Is it really skill issue on my part, or are they harder to hit than they should be? Maybe holding the Thundershoot button could show you an aiming reticle, something like a line that shows you how the character will fire off. You know, that's actually pretty smart of me. Put me on the Sonic Heroes remake team, Sega. I don't know if this flower would have taken me back to the beginning of the level, but thank heavens I backed up and found the golden turtle sitting down there. It's a rather inoffensive stage for the crew, but it definitely lacks those highs and lows Team Sonic and Dark get. It's not even that Team Chaotix's objectives are always bad, but they end up being less fun than doing the stage themselves. Whoa! That's what happens when you carve apart pieces of a carefully crafted level. Who would have thought? Right at the beginning of the Team Dark stage, there's this line of rings you can follow to shortcut your way through the area. Shadow gets lots of opportunities to zoom, and this stage has one of my favorites for him. First, look at this. What's even going on here? As useful as the flying formation is, it causes massive issues with hit detection. There have been so many edges I bounced off of instead of landing later in these playthroughs, and they always happen in flying formation. And look at this. Did I do the automation wrong? I feel like if you've been a Sonic fan for enough of their games, you expect that their automation can sometimes send you directly into danger when it shouldn't. It happens in way more Sonic games than it should. Cutting the elevator section short with smart movement is so good. It feels great to execute on this, and it feels even better if you landed the second one as Shadow. Chaining this many lines of rings together is sick, and you can cut out the entire elevator section if you're good enough. This is peak Sonic game design, and I will not take any questions on it. Accept it or perish. I hope you're ready for this, the special stage. I hope you're ready for what's next. Instead of a boss fight against Eggman, we fight the other teams. Not only do these fights hardly work, but this is the game that destroyed how the world saw Amy for a long time. Amy declares, "Sonic, this time there's no way out of marrying me," which, you know, completely violates his consent as a person. Could you imagine this gag even being funny if the genders were flipped? It's a gag that did serious damage to how Amy was perceived, and it paints her character in an even worse light when you realize her other two friends get completely shafted by her actions. They're looking for Chocola and Froggy, but instead of asking Sonic what he knows about their whereabouts, she childishly pushes for her own wants over their needs. Froggy? Just because it's a Chow and a Frog, it doesn't mean that their safety and well-being means any less to Big or Cream. Imagine if it was Cream's mother, Vanilla, that had went missing instead. Amy is ignorant and selfish here, and it's a horrible look for her. It's a regression of her once maturing character. 0 marks, Sega. It doesn't get much better when we actually get to the boss fight either. The PvP fights between characters are back, and they're the worst they've ever been. They're nonsensical scrambles to damage one another as fast as you can, because it's easy to get locked into stun after stun if you aren't proactive. The only strategy I can recommend to anyone wanting to get through these fights with as little struggle and his with as little struggle as possible, try to grab as many power-ups before you can, and then go ham. The game tries to say something about countering the enemy's formation, but just ignore it and spam attacks. The best defense is a great offense after all. Or, you can have the AI jump off of their own accord. They did that when I was fighting Team Sonic as Amy and company. That's great too. Thanks, Sonic. Rouge antagonizes Team Chaotix all on her lonesome, thinking they're out for Eggman's secret treasure too. Are they fighting over treasure, or are they petty beyond measure? At least this doesn't bastardize any characters for years beyond this experience, right? Ooh, Casino Park. We never got the Casino Calamity follow-up to Metropolis Mayhem. Are they still making it? I don't even know anymore. I'd be sad if it weren't for how great this music opens up. The way it starts out quieter and muffled before the music builds up to a super satisfying beat drop. Oh my god, it's so good. This is that song you hear years after playing it, and you feel the nostalgia tingle go straight through your body like a bullet. Casino Park's theme is immaculate, telling exactly what it is to you, a gambling heaven. The way the dice platforms spin around or squash and stretch, the abundance of bumpers in and off the board, and rolling a plenty is excellent for the level's theming. Now, having said that, the gameplay present here is actually not as bad as you might think. The board controls suck, but everything in between is great. Bingo Highway, when it's not trying to send you into a pit, is fun. Going for the bingo chips is enjoyable stuff. Let's talk more particulars. Team Sonic gambling, everybody. I've got no clue what's going on here, but what I think happened is I meant to switch to Sonic for platforming challenges, but since he was still on the table, I went to controlling him where he was. Normally, you switch and you maintain your position, but these two stages break those rules for some reason. It can be helpful, like when I saw Tails was further up the board and switched to him, but the other characters getting ahead of you like this is a happy accident, not something you can plan for. This is a frequent issue I ran into. When the other two AI teammates return to you, they cut your jump short and cause you to immediately start dropping. It's another inconsistency in the controls that can create frustration, and it's really easy to get into that flow state, jump, and then need to course correct quickly when you randomly drop. Pro tip for all Sonic Heroes gamers. You can fly over this board to save yourself some suffering like this. I tried to weaponize the game's jank physics against it, but all it did was make me look stupid.
I love you, and I miss you.
Do you see that VIP board in the distance? Sonic Heroes is just teasing me with that alternate path I missed. The bastards. There's not all that much platforming between gambling, is there? Leave board, go up spring, destroy enemies, go to board, leave board, go up spring, destroy enemies.
This city reminds me of Casino Awkward.
Modern Sonic game writing in my old Sonic game? Actually, it wasn't an issue at this point because, you know, they attempted to have some continuity back then. Sonic Heroes uses Chocola and Froggy from Metal Sonic to copy Chaos's data back from SA1. It isn't just, remember when that thing happened? With no story relevance. You can reference yourself, but only if it feels relevant and doesn't come off pandery. People don't want you to just say what happened. They want what happened before to mean something. They want it to make a difference in the plot now, so it feels like their investment in that old game is still acknowledged and cherished.
When in a ball, move the control sticks right and left to slightly change the direction of the ball.
She's kind of right, but oftentimes, it feels closer to a wrestling match where you sometimes get your way, sometimes don't. Objectively, Casino Park is a level that doesn't function very well at all, and it's dominated by said poorly made gimmick. The platforming between boards is incredibly basic, so if you don't like gambling, then all this stage really has is its music and great visual design. It doesn't feel so bad to me to play because I'm used to the jank, but it's an objectively bad level without functioning, fun gameplay. Speaking of functioning, yeesh. A bear just wants his ring bonus. Come on now. How about we see what Team Chaotix's objective for this stage entails?
Here's your next mission. Disguise yourselves and infiltrate into the city. The goal is to collect 200 rings. This is a test run.
Let's go.
Win 200 rings. At least it fits with the objective of the level. If you didn't know, collecting many a ring is the challenge mode for Team Rose, and this stage makes it pretty easy to succeed at. You can stay on a single board if you want and hope you get lucky. For me, personally, I progressed forward through the stage as normal. If you come to this point in Casino Park as Team Chaotix, you can use the dice to fly over to that slot machine and get all 3 characters in easy. You know, if you don't suck like me. It's an easy A rank, maybe one of the easiest and shortest ones in the entire game. Wow, that's an incredibly small line from Shadow that makes me smile. He thinks the city is cool. The reason I even bring this up is, well, there's a concept known as flanderization. To put it as simply as I can, it's when a character gets simplified down to 1 or 2 traits when they previously were much more nuanced. For Shadow's case, it would be him perpetually grump and standoffish to everyone in every situation. Have you seen my good buddy, Froggy? Did I say something funny? What are you smiling for, bitch? If my friend being missing is so funny to you, maybe you'd like to go missing too. Him saying cool city directly goes against that idea, breathing life into him with some variety and expression. I believe Rouge is currently suffering from flanderization massively. All of her lines are delivered in a way that sound like innuendos or flirting, which, despite their attempts to cover her up more in recent times, actually serves to degrade her character down solely to her sexual element. I've heard that Sonic Dream Team's Rouge is like that, but like many others, I haven't played it due to its exclusivity, so I can't confirm that all her lines are this way. Very late addendum, but I realized I hadn't explained this well enough in the initial recording. Let me make my opinion on Rouge clearer. It's not so much the words she says, but how she says everything.
I finally find you, and what do I see? Sonic defeating you. What happened?
I will beat him on equal terms, or not at all.
A fine time for you to be honorable. Now he has the Chaos Emerald.
No, he has a fake emerald. I'll have you swap it for the real thing after I'm finished with my mission.
Wow, look at you. As a professional jewel thief, I approve.
For characters like Shadow, it's just the breathy delivery and overall tone, not the words. If it still doesn't make entire sense, I've got one more example. This is a perfectly normal sentence with no innuendos, but I bet it sounds suggestive. Rouge's voice acting direction can go any way Sega wants, but to me, it feels like she's always flirting with how her tone is and everything. That's all. Back to my explanation. In SA2, Rouge expressed a great variety of emotions, which included being flirty, but wasn't limited to only being flirty. She got mad, talked back, threw shade, and gave us the whole spectrum of emotion. In Heroes, I think she doesn't even say a single line that's remotely flirty. She brings the team together, and she shows both care and concern for Shadow. That's lovely to see. Part of the reason people love Team Dark so much is because of how deep they are as characters, thanks in part to their connections with one another. Being as close as they are, they express softer, friendlier emotions to one another than they do others. Let me ask you this. Do you see Sonic getting scared, sad, angry? In which games do you see these emotions? Now, ask that question for Shadow. Pretty clear difference, right? I think a great idea for a story that would explore Sonic's character is one where he's teamed up with Shadow for most of it. The two of them don't get along, so seeing them butt heads, argue, as well as the moments when they come together, compromise, and agree, would do lots for both characters and establishing their dynamic to a newer audience. Oh god, I wrote all that and I remembered that I'm analyzing Sonic Heroes, not the individual characters. Send help. I have opinions that all extended out from Shadow simply saying, cool city. Team Dark's Casino Park is Team Sonic's, but with more enemies. I'd say it's more entertaining because you spend more time platforming, but gameplay being so hit or miss caps this stage out as a mid-experience at best. Bingo Highway, unfortunately, while upping the stakes, fun, and craziness, also has lower lows due to pits present on its boards. You would think the perspective shift to something more familiar would help with controlling Sonic, and it does just a little bit. On straightaways, it's controllable, but the second you hit a turn or bumper, good luck. Example 532 of Sonic Heroes doing whatever it wants. Collecting the bingo chips and hearing that surge of rings you get when successful is the highlight of this stage. Despite Sonic playing around with the idea of casino-themed stages frequently, this one manages to stand out as its own thing. Every casino stage has slots, but not everyone has a bingo board. Slots are probably the easiest to implement, but there's so many more ways to gamble your savings away than just slots and pinball. Maybe Sonic's identity doesn't lend itself as well to playing the likes of blackjack, but you can only become balls on a pinball board so many times before it gets grating. Again, they're great at giving you the vibe of properly playing pinball, which often ends up being a chaotic mess for those not practiced in the art of balls.
What did he say?
This level's identity is top tier, only improved by creating more interesting opportunities for platforming that aren't straightaways and springs upwards. Rail Canyon and Bullet Station have rails that dominate the stage, but they don't completely swallow it up like Casino Park and Bingo Highway's pinball tables do. Between the two stages, Bingo Highway definitely has more diverse platforming and less time spent on tables proportionally, but here come the lower lows. This board has huge areas you can fall off all throughout it. They probably thought, oh, well, they have 3 chances because they can switch characters, so we can make it more difficult. I want you to pay close attention to the amount of close calls I had going down this, only for the game to wrestle control successfully away from me and throw me into the final pit on the table. Knuckles was chilling in the back, so I do get another try without losing a life, but I believe this was a happy accident rather than intended. You could change the behavior of the AI teammates to be mini checkpoints, and so many problems would be solved. Imagine if, whenever you fell off, you switched to one of your other characters slightly after the pit you fell into in order to continue playing. That way, you'd have to fall off 3 times before you lost a life, rather than the AI teammates finding ways to off themselves before they've even been on the Ford car before they've been on the board for 5 seconds. Inconsistent control plus instant death is a recipe for total disaster. I have genuinely nothing to say about Team Rose's run through this stage. It lacks the frustration of the harder parts, but also the accompanying excitement. So, yeah. The boys need to collect bingo chips to supposedly enter Eggman's hideout. Was that really so hard to say? There are some chips to be collected on the boards, as well as a way to go back with the flowers if you missed one of them. All the chips aren't only on the pinball boards, and even sit right out in the open like this at times. When they're this easy to get, it makes me wonder, what's even the point of putting them there? They're inoffensive, but in a stage that's already not great gameplay-wise, having to go around and collect these specific things in uninteresting or frustrating areas isn't fun. There are more than 10 chips on this stage, so it's not too egregious a scavenger hunt, but it's a stage that you'll wait to be over. Ugh. Team Dark has it even worse on the pinball tables. Before we get to that, I want to try and give some more positivity towards this stage. The enemies are themed with their vibrant colors and cute bunny ears, exclusive to only this stage. I appreciate the additional effort, even if it contributes to my conflicted feelings of amazing theme and visuals, but subpar control with the gimmick that takes up most of the stage. So many positive and negative feelings all stirred together. And would you look at that? A whole level's worth of good play thrown away because the game stole control away from me. God forbid you touch a wall a little bit and it steals away all of your forward momentum. The issues I've spoken of up until this point don't affect the game every single moment, but they crop up frequently enough that you will be forced to contend with the inconsistency likely once per stage. Moments like these, where frustration peaks, are those quit moments that have you put a game down forever. No game wants to get to that point, unless you're Dark Souls. I do love this alternate path that gives you another shot at more bingo fun. This game does move and react quickly to big balls to collect them really well, I must say. No other game can compete with that, now can it? Surely the third Emerald stage will take longer than the last two, right?
I'll be right back.
That one did take a few seconds longer. Wow, we're at number 3 of 7, so I'm sure they'll get harder soon. Sonic Heroes has another boss fight substitute for us now. Eggman will spin around your arena and verbally harass you while summoning his whole robot army atop you to crush you. While Team Rose's fight only ran me a minute 30, Team Dark's fight went on for double that and then some. It wasn't tedious to get through, but if you don't like the combat in Sonic Heroes, these levels aren't going to be changing your mind. I appreciate the effort to keep the third act or boss act fresh with a rotating variety of objectives though.
I smell soggy.
She says Chakula is closed. All right, let's go.
What comes after a level with a gimmick that's hard to control? Another level with its own gimmick that's actually slightly easier to control. Rail Canyon is known for its, well, rails. Rails in threes specifically. You know how modern Sonic stages have plenty of these to switch back and forth between? They started here, and their start was less than stellar. Sonic Adventure 2's rail grinding wasn't stellar either, but this feels noticeably worse than that system. The leaning on rails remains, but it isn't as punishing to your overall speed to not lean properly. Half of the reason for this is the constant boosters on rails to keep you going at a certain speed. If I were a betting man, I'd bet on every single rail here having a booster on it. The other stages with rails have much less, and definitely don't come close to the amount of boosters here. It's an intentional design choice to make the stage feel particularly wild, and it succeeds at that nigh perfectly. Rail Canyon loves its spectacle. Just look at these speedy loops going all kinds of ways. This level is rightfully iconic for making rails the wildest they've ever been, for good and bad. See, I don't know if associating the wild, unpredictable controls with the wild claims is fair, but the controls are as memorable as the stage, unfortunately. If you've heard someone talk about Rail Canyon, you've definitely heard them mention that switching between rails in Sonic Heroes is a total toss-up. Sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. Sometimes you'll think you have a strat down to get it consistent, and then you'll fly off into the canyon below when you least expect it. Great! I've long since accepted that every jump between rails is a risk if I'm not in fly formation. I don't want to sit in fly formation while going down all the rails, because not only is it intolerably slow, but look at how ridiculous this tower is. I refuse to subject Big the Cat to this torture any more than I must. Not even Tails wants any part of it anymore. Was this line of rings supposed to send me up to the rails above? With how they were angled, I feel like they should have, but inconsistency strikes again. It's okay, I slipped up there in fly formation anyways. You won't stop me, game. This is the wildest rail riding section in all of Sonic as a series. I can't recall anything that matches these wild, zany loops that go every which way that can even come close to comparing. You could argue this is a long set piece of automation like we see all over the series, but whereas I feel later games slap aspects in to pad out levels, this here has a purpose, to be fun. The amount of rails, their unpredictable and unrealistic twists and turns, and even how Sonic asks, "You wanna race?" all tell me the developers wanted us to have a fun, exciting moment in Rail Canyon. The game isn't playing itself either, because you can still hop to the other rails for rings, and even defeat the enemies that are racing alongside you. It feels natural, even if it's got about as much gameplay as a QuickTime event. Just take a long look at all the different ways we're zipping around. These vertical rails drop you off onto another set after you flip the switch to progress. This is peak rail gameplay in terms of style, speed, and creativity, even if control falls short. Later Sonic games get the control better, but lack the other three, and I hate it. I can't point to any specific examples right now, mostly because I'm so hyper-focused in on Sonic Heroes as a whole when writing this, but you know what? Do you agree with me? And can you maybe think of some examples of rails done poorly? Help me fill out the gaps in my Sonic brain cells with your own opinions in the comments, because I know I can't be the only one that feels this way. Or go flame me for being a big dumb bear. I suppose that's okay too. Example A of the triangle dive feeling horrible. I didn't have the speed to outpace the trains, but I quickly think and use the triangle dive to try and save it. All my hopes got dashed as my glide dramatically dropped after 1 second, and angrily throwing Sonic and Tails into the abyss before me did little to soothe my pain. Instead of limiting the abilities of players to feel bad if used in any other way than intended, design levels around their moveset and let the players do cool things. I will always be an advocate for gameplay built like that, and I think it's Sonic's lifeblood. This community comes up with all sorts of tech that were never intended by the devs, but feed into that speedrunning fun Sonic is amazing at. Would it have negatively impacted the game if the triangle dive had a glide that didn't drop like a rock after 3 seconds? No, I don't think so. Man, now that I think about it, the triangle dive has to be one of the most lackluster skills in this whole game. Instead of allowing power types to glide across long distances, they mostly act as a form of flight with the fans. Think of the obstacles that could exist with a decent triangle dive. Then again, maybe I'm just salty that my 4-minute and 30-second gameplay towards an A rank went to complete waste because of a single mistake. Maybe my issue is the abundance of bottomless pits all over the game. They're in every single level, and bottomless pits aplenty never feel good. No, it has to be a culmination of bottomless pits, inconsistent controls, and long stages. Honestly, A way around this without changing too much of the game would be don't reset your score when you lose a life, but instead give a little asterisk next to the A rank that shows you did it flawlessly. The asterisks could lead to unlockables, such as concept art and other minor stuff. Let's change gears and see what Team Chaotix has to do in order to complete their Rail Canyon.
Here's your next mission. Infiltrate the terminal station located in the
Oh, they have to get to the end. To not be dishonest and completely skip their playthrough, it is different. The flowers are here again to skip you around, and some obstacles are changed, but it's not enough to warrant much mention. At this point, instead of going to the upper path and using the triangle dive to float upwards, Team Chaotix continues forwards past the train. Ooh, here's something new to enjoy. Is it enough though? Depends on the quality of their new section. You've got, well, rails and a train doing circles. Once you switch the rails to the other direction and proceed, it's more rails. Don't be pushing any direction on your control as a flying formation here, unless you want a heart attack like I got. After the final slide down, that's it. Wow, I didn't notice their beginning part had additional, you guessed it, rails. But no, this is not substantial enough a change in the context of Sonic Heroes. Look, I'm not asking for an entirely new version of the stage, but if that was your 4th time going through the stage, would it be enough of a switch up for you? It's not for me. I do appreciate them making changes, and I wonder if Team Chaotix could have all of their stages with new areas instead of their objective gimmick in a remake. That'd do wonders for making every team more enjoyable, but if one team needed it most, I think it's Team Chaotix. Team Dark has more combat encounters as usual, and they're still at a point where they're an enjoyable challenge that doesn't drag out. Instead of larger life bars, I'd have preferred enemies in this game have more difficult methods of attacking them. The only ones that become a large issue are the big hammer guys with the helmets, and the enemies with shields that block all damage until they lower them. For a good chunk of the late game, you can team blast to dispatch them, but in the 6th and 7th zone especially, they're everywhere and require you to brawl it out with them extensively. This is the start of a trend with Team Dark specifically. The game normally stops you if you come to an edge, but if you attack as power formation with Team Sonic or Dark, you have likely had this happen to you. Fuck! My bad for not jump attacking near an edge instead of meleeing on the ground. Sometimes you'll be nowhere near an edge, attack, auto-targeting pulls you away you didn't expect, and you fall off. Gosh, what this game could be with some quality of life fixes. When are we getting the Sonic Heroes recompilation, guys? I'd lose my marbles if that got announced. Sonic Unleashed's recompilation came out the other day as I'm writing this part, and this game would benefit even more than Unleashed did with modern bells and whistles. I messed up here on both Sonic and Dark's playthrough, and I wonder, did the devs intend for you to be able to outpace the trains? I feel like you can't without tight execution, but it's really easy to get ahead of them at first, only to get ran over by them afterwards. I don't know, it strikes me as a beginner's trap more than anything. The spectacle is super cool, but this one doesn't entirely seem to be a skill issue on my part. Exhibit A of why mastering your momentum feels so damn good. I haven't dug too deep into the discourse behind momentum in Sonic games up until this point, but I'm well within the camp of momentum is great and should be in every game. Nothing is worse in the modern titles than going to make a jump with a ton of speed, only for all of it to wither away in an instant. For older Sonic fans who've gotten used to it, it's as if a crucial aspect of what made Sonic fun to us was suddenly removed for no good reason. All in all, Rail Canyon is another great theme held back by controls and repetition. Casino Park, Bingo Highway, and Rail Canyon are dominated by their gimmick, but thankfully, things get better from here. We return to more normal platforming challenges with Bullet Station. Oh, this song is genuinely one of my favorite Sonic songs. It bangs so unbelievably hard, and there's no possible way I could sit here and give an objective take on it. The Shadow Generations remixes don't hold a candle to the original for me. Absolute chills. To talk about the level design itself, they've eased up on the rails compared to the previous act. Bullet Station is better for this in my mind. They could not do another stage with that frequency of rail grinding without it wearing thin even on a single playthrough, but with 4, great choice to ease back and focus on new gimmicks instead. At the same time, we've still got plenty of rails, so the stages have continuity that makes sense. I remember getting stuck on this as a kid, since I couldn't critically think and thought to myself, well, so far, I've had to flip every switch I came across to proceed. Color little bear me surprised when that didn't work, and it took me a good minute to figure out. This could have easily backfired if done poorly and too often, but since this game isn't only speed and actually has puzzle elements, it works. Imagine if they tried to do a whole brain teaser that completely killed the pace of the game though. Let's play tic-tac-toe with Eggman's robots. Do you see those difficult to break capsules? Ha ha ha. Aren't they familiar? If you attempt to walk this as anything other than fly formation, you've got a death wish. God forbid you're not proficient at platformers, because this game demands so much precision from you at points. Despite the game feeling, to me, like it's closer marketed towards a younger crowd with the emphasis on
The real superpower of teamwork.
having a game this difficult is wild. We aren't in the Nintendo hard quarter munching era anymore, and it's difficult to imagine a younger child of Gen Alpha committing to complete this game despite the struggles they'll face. Unfair struggles at that.
This must be the Gen Cannon's internal mechanism we saw before.
Hey, let's try firing that thing. Hey, come on now. Don't do it, Sonic.
You don't get to see Sonic and Knuckles interact more casually like this in the modern day. Sonic's thrill-seeking behavior versus Knuckles' more measured rationale culminates in them getting into the machine anyway. They're called Team Sonic after all, not Team Knuckles.
It's moving!
Here we go. Hey, which way is the cannon facing? Hey!
Beyond cool set piece. Getting fired out of a cannon shaped like a powerful gun barrel is peak Sonic, and moving back and forth to grab the balloons is satisfying fun. I always enjoy climbing into the magnum cylinders and bullet station and firing off. Going through these sections where you're on trains on an indoor railway, looking for the engine to explode and total more of Eggman's base, is a welcome change that aligns with the story the stage is trying to tell. We are completely wrecking Eggman's plans with intentionality, rather than simply running through a level to find the Doctor. This is his home turf, and we're destroying all of it as we speed along. Been a bit since we've seen the sled. In this section, it's possible for the sled to take damage and you lose one of the characters temporarily. The tutorial mentions that it's possible for Tails to also fall off, but as you can see here, I quickly lose the ability to turn left or right, as well as go fast. I thought I was 100% going to fail because of the trains in my way, but I auto-turned between them somehow. Me getting through this without losing a life was pure dumb luck because the boxes obscure the lasers in the final stretch way too well. I could have taken things slower, but do you think the devs intended for you to go slow? You have to have some speed to properly clear the line of lasers anyways. I don't know how to feel about the bobsled sections that involve risk like this. I can recall them messing me up as a kid, but I don't know. They're so short that I think they're inoffensively mid at worst. They're fun, but beginner's traps that require memorization to get good at. That's a good question to bring up. Should levels be designed in such a way where a beginner could clear them with an A rank if they had the skill to do so? Should knowing the level beforehand be a requirement? If so, how important should knowing the level beforehand be? In my opinion, and in the ideal world, the game would not throw nigh unreactable curveballs at you that create an instant failure state. The bobsled requires 3 mistakes for you to lose a life, so the curveballs aren't so bad, I suppose. After thinking through it more, I'll bump them up. I enjoy them as they are so far. Can someone tell me what I did wrong right here? Why? Why did I fall off? What did I do to deserve this? Just another Sonicism, I guess. I can't blame anyone for disliking this game, because unfair deaths are the worst thing a game can do, short of making you lose all your progress. Technically speaking, the score system does this if you're going for A ranks, unfortunately.
Would you like to restart?
Bye, Sonic. I haven't spoken about these enemies, but they steal a character if they get the chance to. I didn't catch Sonic had been taken before progressing, so he's just gone. Never mind, there he is. Each character is too integral to the function of the game to genuinely be lost for any long period of time, so it's unlikely you'll lose a character for more than a minute at most. Destroying the robot returns your friend anyways, so no biggie. I don't end up having any issues with them over the 4 playthroughs, but if I'm remembering correctly, can't the golden ones teleport away if you don't defeat them fast enough after they steal someone? Am I making things up? I went to Google it after faintly recalling the memory, and I was right. They teleport to another dimension with your friend. Apparently, a team blast also brings your teammates back. The power of teamwork lets us teleport between dimensions, I guess? Ending off the stage with being shot from the Glock and blowing up Eggman's head is a stellar finale. Capsules surround the goal ring, and with the abundance of them in this stage, I wonder if, at an earlier point in development, the other teams were going to have to fight an army of shadow robots. It'd make more sense why Team Sonic and Team Dark would fight later on if they were in disbelief that was the real Shadow. Food for thought. Team Rose starts wherever they feel like as usual, and it makes me wonder how they decided where they should start in each stage. A neat detail are these cannons firing from inside the rocks here. They don't cause you any harm, but it adds to the sense of danger infiltrating Eggman's base for sure. Once again, the special stage key is out in the open, begging for you to grab it. I don't get the idea behind it just being out in the open, but sure. The placement of the cannon section, only 1 minute into Team Rose's version of the stage, leaves it feeling unearned compared to the other playthroughs. You barely get any level beforehand.
I'm falling!
I should probably talk about this. I'm aware that people don't like the repetition of the characters' voice lines, and I believe one of the most frequent ones has to be, "I'm falling!" I personally don't mind how vocal all the characters are, and I always found Big the Cat's lines hilarious to listen to. He sounds like he's high on life, if you catch my drift.
Froggy, where are you? Let's go home.
Their bullet station unceremoniously ends after blowing up a single train, just like that. This stage, more than any other for them so far, feels like a preview of a full stage that you'd see in a timed demo rather than a fully realized level. Sonic Heroes' stages are designed with a longer runtime in mind, so shortening them down to the length of a classic act feels very wrong. If you don't like Sonic Heroes because of how long the stages are, try playing through them with Team Rose if you still want to experience the game yourself. You won't get the full intended experience, but at least you can say you played through all the stages and know of them a little bit, I suppose? Interestingly, Team Chaotix's goal in this stage is to destroy 30 of the Baby Shadow android capsules. I don't know why Eggman wants them specifically destroyed. Maybe he doesn't want Neo Metal Sonic to find out about them? I think I can pinpoint exactly why I dislike using the tornado to remove shields from enemies. Look at how long this single bot gets iframes for. It takes about as long to bop them in power formation through the shield as it does to remove their shield with a tornado and destroying them the dev intended way. Remove the lengthy invincibility and it'll feel tons better to do things the proper way, I imagine. Let's keep up nitpicking, shall we? Waiting for these poles to slowly rise up after activating them is simply time wasted. In a potential re-release, make them shoot up 2 or 3 times as fast. It's waiting for no reason. And I don't know how many times I attempted to use the tornado too early, only to then have to do it again once the pole was all the way up. Super minor, but a bunch of small tweaks to this game would add up to a much superior experience overall. You know, I've gotten oh my god. I have gotten a renewed appreciation for Vector and Big's ability to operate more independently from their teammates with the bounce. Enemies with pointy weapons will get them hurt all the same, so it's less useful as the game goes on, but not having to be reliant on the inconsistent teammate AI is a blessing in disguise. I didn't accidentally slip off an edge while attacking as Vector or Big, and I appreciate that. Spoilers, I'm a big fat liar and fell off as them later. Oh my goodness gracious! Is this a damn horror game? Nothing is scarier in a platformer than when the camera shifts suddenly when you're midair. Sonic Heroes is going to take years off my life at this point. I am a thrill seeker just like Sonic going for something like this. I'm playing with fire now. If you are too close to the ground when attempting to initiate a triangle dive, you will fail to initiate it over and over until the game eventually decides it will let you do it. I know. another nitpick, but it happens all throughout the game. Throw it in the pile of jank interaction and we'll move on. How about a positive nitpick? A minor good thing to balance out the negativity. The way Vector steers the bobsled with a single hand while reclining with the other over the seat is prime characterization in motion. They didn't have to animate him this way, but they made the conscious decision to make his personality reflect in his animations here. Cool dude does the cool lean. This is another level where there's more than enough to complete the mission, and exploration is rewarded with an earlier clear. Definitely has to be one of the more enjoyable Team Chaotic stages. With an infinite budget, I would give them an open zone exploration style for these stages, but considering Sega left the console market and was not doing too well financially at the time, this is what we've got. If they had their way, we would have had 6 teams. Team Dark starts in the same area that Team Rose does, surprisingly. See? Here's the same choice between a flying and power obstacle. Oh, look what they've done to my boy. I didn't even remember that these crushing blocks can take characters away from you. However will we recover from this? Oh look, there he is. To touch back on my idea of turning the leveling system for the characters into charges for strong moves, imagine if you could aim the bullets, flamethrower, or missiles in first person like Project 06 allows Omega to. Give him the ability to completely melt Eggman's robots. Honestly, I think Omega being the strongest character in the game when it comes to destroying Eggman's robots would be sick and make their challenge levels more fun to play. It might be an incredibly subtle thing to notice, but I had a grand revelation at this point of Team Dark's playthrough. I learned that you can cancel their time stop by hitting the Team Blast button again. Normally, the bar slowly drains as the Chaos Control runs out. Yes, I realize all those times I spent waiting for it to run out as a kid was my own damn fault. Does the game tell you about this interaction anywhere? I can say with some confidence that it doesn't, but I'm not 100% sure. I think using Team Blast to stop time would have actually allowed me to go through and collect that 1-up plus a shortcut, but I'm not 100% on that. If it does, that's a super sick and subtle shortcut that makes me love Sonic Heroes even more. I think we should spend some time talking about Omega as a character. Sonic Heroes is his introduction game, and he's an important piece of that Team Dark pie. His design shares many elements in common with Shadow, mainly the colors. They've both got their reds, blacks, and golds, but Omega leans further into the angry reds than Shadow's more common blacks. He's an incredibly aggressive character that would easily be considered an actual edgelord if not for one key trait. He's a robot. His anger and need for destruction are balanced out by his robot-y mannerisms, making it somewhat humorous. His sole purpose in this world was to serve Eggman, and what did Eggman have him do? Sit in a room to guard something for an indeterminate amount of time alone. In that time, he grows a deep hatred for Eggman, and by the time Rouge frees him, he's developed an entire superiority complex. You can hear it throughout the game, between Annihilate, Fire, and Kill. You can catch him saying,
"Worthless consumer models."
Where did this superiority complex come from? Here's my theory. At one point, he developed an insecurity about being locked up. He assumed his destructive capabilities to be faulty, and seeing these lesser robots being allowed to roam free rather than discarded and forgotten like him, makes him seek to prove himself by destroying all of them. He was made to destroy, so he wants to express his need to exist by destroying. It's spite-driven destruction of his brethren. By destroying Eggman's army, he's proving to his creator that he made the wrong decision, and in some sense, could still even be looking for validation from him, despite his claims of wanting to destroy him. Perhaps, in defeating Eggman, he would find that validation that he's not worthless and forgettable. We don't get to see what he would be like succeeding in this, and in future games after this, there's a noticeable shift in his character. Despite being a robot, there's a very real human vulnerability in his insecurity that drives his rage-fueled revenge. He reflects an aspect of Shadow, a version of him that he could be with his memories gone, and, in fact, a version of him that he was before. In a sense, when that version of Shadow unalived, when he broke free of Professor Gerald's manipulation, Omega continued and focused in on that aspect of revenge in his character, albeit with some tweaks to specifics. He is hell-bent on revenge in the same way Shadow was. They both come from a very similar place of hate that gets twisted, and they quietly bond over those familiar origins and feelings. Both were locked up, both have plots for revenge, and both move past it and find companionship in one another and Rouge. He's a great character that continued an aspect of Shadow's character that was lost, and they're greater for it. Their similarity, and then Rouge's calm, composed, mature demeanor balancing out their rage, is perfect. Also, 2 fun facts. The idea that Eggman has essentially created robots with sentience mean he's got the same ability of creation as God does. Second, Shadow pulls the green Chaos Emerald out from within Omega to use Chaos Control during their team blast, which means they canonically have this emerald from the beginning of the game. I don't know why the first special stage lets you collect it as any team, but that's just a gamey thing that you don't look into unless you want to split hairs. They wanted Shadow to use his iconic Chaos Control, and the game is better for it. We've got a Chaos Emerald to chase. This one's going to start ramping up the difficulty, right? Nope.
Sonic, look!
That thing's loaded with Eggman's weapons.
Eggman, you're finished! Ready all cannons! Open fire!
Egg Albatross has another banger. The slow build into the beat drop is like that $500 steak that's the size of a marble on your plate. This machine of Eggman's looks more intimidating than it actually is. You can spam homing attack and hit the body or wings pretty easy to down the first part, and the second phase has you smacking the blimp next. As you can see here, it's not particularly complicated if you mash button, but there is some more to it than mashing if you really want. If you go down the right path, there's power-ups you can grab yourself to make destroying Eggman easier. There's no areas where Eggman stops this time to do a cute little rotating spray and pray, so keep up to slam jam him. The camera goes completely wild when the game transitions between phases, so take care not to accidentally run off while it gets back into position. Eggman will zoom back towards you if he gets too far ahead, so don't worry about him escaping. There's really not all that much more to say that isn't the same as before. The first boss even appears as a last-ditch attempt to fight back. It's got significantly less health, so it's easy enough to wallop and make Eggman call it quits. Really, this fight isn't all that interesting outside of the music and scale, but what comes after makes up for it. Each of the teams, who apparently all fought their own version of Eggman, find a decoy that announces that this game isn't over yet. As Team Dark and Sonic run away, a familiar yet different robot rises up from the goop to proclaim it has copied data. All is not as it seems, and this is a good way to get around the fact that every team is canonically fighting Eggman around the same time. Frog Forest. After all that intensity, we get a stage with a more chill vibe that lets you take things easier. Except if you do what I did. Don't do what I did unless you want to have a heart attack. The main gimmick of Frog Forest are, predictably, these frogs that cause rainfall when they spot you. This causes all plants in the nearby vicinity to sprout, which includes fruits you can bounce off of, vines you can grind down, and even the platforms themselves sprout up. Unfortunately, brain cells don't grow on trees, because here I am doing the wildest things imaginable and somehow not dying for it. I mentioned earlier that this stage is a break from the intense action of Rail Canyon, Bullet Station, and the Egg Albatross, but why is that a good thing? Let's explain this using horror games, because spooks live or die by the principle of proper build-up. Boo! If you've played a horror game before, you know that the build-up to a scare is always more powerful than the scare itself. The tension building up in the silence or the music, the sounds you hear in the distance, and maybe even catching a glimpse of the monster before an encounter. Imagine Bullet Station is the big spooky after the prior levels were building up to it. Would you follow that stage up with another spook? Are throwing a flurry of jump scares back to back scary? No. After the intense, head-spinning music and level design of Eggman's base, we get to return to something more natural and peaceful. Not only does contrasting intensity with calm emphasize both feelings more, but a moment to catch your breath helps reset your expectations and build back to the game's actual climax. Also, Sega loves their square pattern, so it's all over here, harkening back to a very green hill once again. All that said, I'm not trying to diminish the platforming available. They have their wild, unique set pieces too, but after all that destruction, Sonic and friends are now creating instead of destroying, restoring their karmic balance or something, helping nature grow and thrive, you know? Eggman has always been the antithesis to nature with all his conquests, so in a sense, you get to see the fruits of your labor. Another large component of the level are these flowers, which after a quick tornado spin, you take off flying. We get a good look of the grand size of the mushroom before us, and since there's nothing to threaten us, it's a relaxing trip of collecting big red balloons and enjoying the sights till your next destination. This also serves the dual purpose of tutorializing later segments in a stress and threat-free environment, and that's way past cool. Here, we have another example of automation I enjoy instead of despise, because it fits in with the level's theme and is doing something unique. It's beyond awesome to grind along a vine as it's growing in a forest full of huge frogs that cause rainfall. Vines sprout up around you, really hammering home that theme of restoration and growth in the wake of Eggman's recent defeat, but also what's at stake if you don't chase down the Egg Fleet. A beautiful forest like this would be replaced by his ugly mustache if we don't hurry. Team Rose starts in the same spot as Team Sonic, but ends here anticlimactically once again. They barely even got to experience the stage, man. I legitimately have nothing to say because their run-through is so similar. Oh well, maybe Team Chaotix has something more interesting to chew on? Get through the jungle without triggering the frogs? Oh boy, this is so much fun. I'm so excited. Okay, so I'm not going to talk much about the run-through of the jungle. Instead, I'm going to talk about the stealth objective, and how, beyond it making no story sense, also isn't that much fun. With the frogs here, it's not the worst because their detection radius is small, but this objective is a lose-lose. If there were too many frogs, it'd be an SBO only stage that would be difficult to get right, but the alternative, which is what this stage is, leaves it mostly unchanged. There are not enough frogs here to dramatically change going through this stage, so it's another standard run-through of a stage you've already likely done at least once. Sonic Heroes is best played with breaks between each of the teams. If you want to enjoy this game and its repetition, do only one team a day at most. These levels are great, but how many people, besides speedrunners, want to go through basically the same stage 2, 3, or 4 times in one sitting? This stage is inoffensive as a standalone, but in the grand scheme of the game, it doesn't add anything to the already great game design. Sadly, I have another classic Sonic Heroes oopsie in my Team Dark run. Does meleeing need to send me this far forward? I'm pretty sure I wasn't aiming that way either. So I suppose the rotation of your character determines which way you melee, but not when the lock-on works? Okay then. For anyone who might be struggling with this unintuitive game, in particular with the fly formation, I want you to pay close attention to how I take this jump here. The flight meter is extraordinarily short, but you can supplement this by taking long jumps to cover as much horizontal distance as you can. Beyond that, Team Dark's Froggy Adventure ends in the same way Sonic's does. It's not a standout level in terms of variety, but it's serviceable enough. Guess what's next? The level that drained so many of my lives as a kid. You'll see soon enough. Lost Jungle opens with... I said Lost Jungle opens with an introduction to a brand new enemy type, the Egg Hammer. Great naming conventions, Eggman. You're so talented, bestie. They're the only enemy in the area being introduced well enough, except for the fact that there are bottomless pits near them. You know, pits in a game where you have wild knockback. The Egg Hammer will strike their hammer down if you approach from the front, but if you get behind or besides them, they will do a spin attack instead. Afterwards, they look to be off balance, and if you bop them, you'll get a chance to hit them without getting bopped back. Most of the time, anyway. I often stumble into them while they're downed and take damage regardless, but they're a simple enough enemy, right? Wrong. This is probably the point where people start to get annoyed with the combat encounters in this game. These enemies in particular, with their 30 health, wide area of attack, and particularly the ones with helmets, bring out the worst in Sonic Heroes' simple combat. Throwing hands is great when it's a 1-2 punch kind of deal, but with an extended fight, the simplicity gets old fast. It's not the worst thing in the world, but again, I'm biased towards this game. Despite that, even I don't enjoy fighting these enemies all that much. I understand how to fight them, but in practice, they aren't all that fun to go up against. Lost Jungle introduces a counterpart to the frogs, called the unsurprisingly named Black Frogs. Instead of making things grow, their rain causes plants to shrink and wither away. They close off many alternate paths throughout the stage when spotted, so avoiding them is much more interesting than Team Chaotix's level. The very level design shrinking away when you mess up shows you what you're missing, whereas Team Chaotix has a fail state that resets you back to a checkpoint instantly. They're similar in design, but their failure states differ. One encourages you to avoid them, the other makes you avoid them. Freedom of choice makes you take more personal accountability versus the game saying, it's my way or the highway. A subtle shift in the stage's layout compared to its Act 1 is how the stage is close to ground level. Frog Forest is way up high, but here, we're close enough to drop into the drink if we're not careful. The introduction to diversity and height aside, this stage is probably the most similar to its predecessor in terms of look. Every other stage has much more drastic changes, but this isn't necessarily bad. Thankfully, the stage has another climactic finish that I always enjoy, and it's also the life drainer from my childhood. Back when I was a little bear, this sequence of Vector family beef messed me up beyond belief. I believed you had to use the control stick to move the vines forwards and backwards, just like spinning the control stick for the poles. Because of this, I had a more difficult time timing my jumps. I couldn't focus on getting both motions right, so I unironically game overed here as Team Sonic back in the day. Despite my return after collecting the Master Sword, I still don't feel confident going through here. It's genuinely nerve-wracking to me, even if I manage to time it right now. Call it performance anxiety or anxiety disorder. But to me, I swear I had to do 50 perfect inputs in a row. As for objectively rating it gameplay-wise, I'm of the opinion it goes on a little longer than it needs to. The clock goes from 7:23 to 7:50 before you're done. We were getting close to almost 30 seconds of pushing one button. Something shorter, maybe with another heated platforming segment, would have been better, but this does its job of getting me on edge all the same. As Team Rose, we won't have to worry about that sequence. It deposits us here with a similar introduction to the Egg Hammer, but in a much better, wider arena.
I can't believe this! Those black frogs are bad! Better stay away from those black frogs!
Amy really isn't beating the allegations. She's teaching hate to a 6-year-old. Just look at this. Big returns to me as I'm about to land on this platform, and because of his big butt, I'm pushed downwards and end up falling off because of it. The shift depleted more of my flight meter, so I managed to lose a life on one of the easiest jumps in the entire game. Whack game physics back at it again. After respawning, I whip out some Big the Cat tech and completely destroy the Egg Hammer effortlessly. Maybe the belly drop teams are actually better than Sonic and Dark. Unfortunately, this only works on the ones that don't have a helmet on. There's nothing to see here. Moving on. I'm increasingly getting the feeling that Team Rose's levels end wherever they please. Here, they're in a random corridor with clearly more level beyond it. There's the nice touch of the frog joining them in the end screen at least. I do realize that the final spin around before the end is an attempted repurposing of another set piece to make their stage end with the same pizzazz, but it doesn't hit the same. Again, I'm not advocating for longer Team Rose levels, but as it stands, their stages lack a proper flow that's putting me off as the game goes further on and on. What's the objective this time, guys?
Here's your next mission. There are the jungle in this jungle. You must protect them from Eggman. Find and protect 10 Chow.
Guess Eggman grew a soft spot for the Chow after SA2. If the idea here is to prevent Neo Metal Sonic from copying their data, I kind of get it, and this does create a reasonable conflict with Team Rose later, but it's still goofy. At the very least, we have a simple collect X item objective that we've gotten used to at this point. There are more than enough Chow, so once again, exploration is rewarded, and I give a thumbs up. You can clear their stages very quickly if you go out of your way to explore this one. Definitely one of the better objectives, because the exploration actually rewards me here. It's not so simple that it's smack dab right in front of me, and I feel accomplished with the time I got. It's a good stage, simple as that. There's not really anything substantial to say about their individual playthrough. Team Dark? I guess they're doing stuff like this. Is it intended to be able to sweep underneath the hammer like this? I'm pretty sure you shouldn't be able to do this. When I spoke about Rouge earlier, I suppose you could consider my take on her biased. This is her baseline for me. Her design is more reserved here too, and even if it wasn't, the camera is pulled further back to a point where you don't get too close up to a character's parts.
Oh no!
What makes a character a good character is when they feel real. Even these cartoony animals can make us believe they really exist when they're written well. The most important thing to good character writing is making characters multi-dimensional. Simple questions like, how do they treat children? How do they treat their peers? How do they treat older people? How do they treat the poor, the rich, etc., etc.? All of those things can say so much about who someone is. When your character reacts the same way to everyone, it removes all that depth. We'll have to be worrying about all the other characters potentially returning flanderized too, since Sonic Team is reintroducing friend characters back with Dream Team and Frontiers. That, or coming back entirely rewritten in a way people might not like. Ugh, why did I have to start contemplating a potential future full of pain?
There he is. Pick it from here.
Don't fall.
Oh, I think my sanity was waning after that. I cannot tell you what was going on here. Hold up, I'm slow-moing this. What in the world hit me? Was it coming out of invincibility? Give me the Sonic Heroes recompilation, please, I need—
All right.
Nah, I'm going to dispute this in court. Chaos Emerald 5. Oh boy, this one has to be difficult, right? Wait, do I even want them to be difficult? No, I don't think so.
All right.
Oh, would you look at that? Another emerald. Are my complaints about the balance of these special stages actually a skill issue on my part? Have I gotten good? No. These are easy, aren't they? When you're not actively wrestling the controls while taking wild turns, they're easy. They're either a cakewalk or painful, no midpoint. Shadow and Sonic come across each other again, and they are mutually surprised to see one another. However, things quickly go south when Rouge instigates the conflict by saying they will take it from here. Omega, never having met these people, is on edge, of course. Sonic, casually deflecting their aggression with casual disregard, simply says they want to see Eggman too. He could also be implying Eggman literally sent them a note, but he says it rather vaguely. Now, Shadow, who, mind you, is an amnesiac who's constantly under the stress of trying to remember who he is, fully initiates the conflict with his more direct threat. After that, Sonic's just matching their aggression, and a pointless fight begins. It goes almost entirely against Rouge's character, and that's twice now. This feels like we want the teams to fight, so have someone break character to cause a conflict. It's not even the largest character break either, because sass is definitely Rouge's thing. That said, I don't find it an appropriate response from her in this moment. After SA2's ending, I don't think Rouge would treat Sonic and company this way. It doesn't bother me all that much, but I don't like it. At least no one's overtly breaking their character. Oh yeah, Team Rose and Chaotix also have an equally pointless fight. How about this as a potential rewrite? What if Neo, Metal, Sonic made clones of the teams to get data on them through combat? We've already got Eggman dummies. Why not have the conflicts between teams also be orchestrated by Metal Sonic? Ooh, you know what? What if that was the original idea they had, and that's why the multiplayer mode has those metallic skins of all the teams? Perfect. Use those to change the story. You've already got the assets. I know no one's all that mad about Sonic Heroes story being meh, but is that any reason not to fix it? You can even reuse some of the cutscenes. Imagine when Team Sonic encountered Metal Team Rose, but at first, they were disguised and pretending to be the originals. Robot Amy attempts to approach Sonic, drawing his attention, while Big attempts to body slam them from above. Team Sonic narrowly dodges in the nick of time, and then the Metal Team Rose drops the ruse and they fight. You could do this with every team. Have all of them fight metal copies of the other ones instead of each other pointlessly. I want to go on and on with this idea, but we're going to divert too far away from the topic of Sonic Heroes analysis. I'll end it with this. The metal teams can also act as a clue that someone else is meddling with things, and it'll let them introduce the mystery of Neo Metal Sonic earlier in the story. I think it would make the twist stronger. Little hints at the beginning of the story would sell that Neo Metal Sonic was always watching, observing, and gathering their data. I said I would stop. No more. Moving on. We start to turn up the dial again, returning to an environment that's the furthest from friendly. Spooky, huh? Whenever Sonic does spooky, it hits the theme out of the park, so bring it on. I made a short praising this stage a long while ago, so you might already know I love this level. Let's go through the many strengths, why can I not say it? Strengths of Hang Castle one by one to really appreciate them. Got it that time. A recurring enemy throughout this level that tries to spook you along your way is this jack-o'-lantern with a blue cape. These aren't even Eggman robots, but actual trickster spirits trying to hurt you. Not even 15 seconds into the level, and we experience the main gimmick of Hang Castle. Globes that turn the entire world upside down. I remember as a child, nothing scared me more than falling up into the sky, because I imagined falling out into space and suffocating. Do you know how terrifying it would be if Earth's gravity reversed right now? We can get a better look at the sky when attacking the air and falling off. It's a singular, larger-than-life orange moon surrounded by an abyss of black. Yeah, maybe Kid Me had every right to be terrified. Oddly enough, this color scheme uses the same core design tenets as Green Hill. It's like a twisted inversion. We've got orange grass and sky, bricks of a blue hue making up the castle, and the floor and torches are a yellow-green with a repeating square pattern. They definitely like to use what works. What about this Eggman robot that's exclusive to here? Oh, where's the next one? After this invisible path guided by flames. See, they know how scary it would be to drop into the sky. This gimmick is taking advantage of that. Hang Castle is a whole masterclass in platformer level design. Oh, there's one. This badnik is a magician, and also shares the same gimmick as the level. When orange, it will wave its wand around to heal all the other bots around it. If you use the tornado attack on it, or see it later on, it has this purple form that attempts to kidnap your teammates and drain their rings. Both are a big pain in the butt, but as they don't have large health pools, boost past the other bots to take the magician out first. These swinging blades also have a right side up and upside down look. Here, while upside down, they smile. But right side up, they look angry thanks to the slant of the line through the eye designs. The walls decorated with skulls or a language we can't understand, paired with both red and blue flames contained in torches with a less than welcoming design, all come together to make a nigh perfect level. It's a dizzying swapping of perspectives that is both fresh to the series and a well thought out and well executed on gimmick. It only gets even better when you come to this room where you see a statue of Eggman. Guess what happens when you reverse the castle? Beautiful. The developers are screaming in your face exactly where the plot is going, and I never appreciated it properly as a kid. Hang Castle goes all in on flipping things on their head, and you can tell Sonic Team loved developing this stage. After entering inside and grinding along a rail that looks more like a dangerous blade, we run up the castle wall. I guess you could consider this modern Sonic Boost gameplay in its earliest form. What? You can't tell me you can't envision boosting along this long path and hitting the bumpers to switch between lanes. Like the rest of Sonic Adventure 3, it's jank, but the pieces for an epic moment all could love are there. Excellent stage design. How about another serving of jank? Due to the knockback present in this game locking you in place for a set duration, an annoying thing can happen where enemies combo you. You get around half a second to move before you get hit again, and even 2 hits can be enough to instantly make you lose a life. Enemies aren't frequently rushing you like this, but you can fix this very simply by allowing the player to jump out of the knockback. No more falling off ledges after a hit, and no more comboing. Realistically though, the only time this will likely come into play is during the team battles, because the enemy team does not let up if you give them a chance. Are these levels getting shorter for them? They miss so much of the fun and gimmicks present, so I don't know if I can even recommend you play through them just for a quicker Sonic Heroes experience. If you don't like Sonic Heroes' length, the shorter experiences you get with them lack all of the greatest parts of their designs.
Here's your next mission. You'll need to find the keys to open the doors found inside the castle. Find 10 keys.
So, did Team Chaotix canonically run through this stage first and unlock the way forward for everyone else? Not if my playthrough has anything to say about canonicity. I normally have compliments for the objectives where you collect stuff as Team Chaotix, but I'm not as big a fan of collecting the keys here. As the game has went on, the stages have become noticeably less diverse with how you're prompted to proceed. Compare this to the many ways forward of Seaside Hill, Ocean Palace, and the Metropolis. I said earlier that the repetition is offloaded partially on these levels having many ways forward, but as the game has went on, it's gotten more and more binary. It's been a consistent decline, and I understand the reason for this. When it comes to what part of a video game gets the most work and attention on it, what tends to get the most work is the first level. First impressions are important, and you could see this at work in the Sonic series even all the way back in Sonic 1. The quality of Green Hill doesn't compare to the rest of the game when it comes to fun, and Sonic Heroes went down a similar path. The early chunk of the game has deviations aplenty that take you towards your goal, but now, we're Final Hallway 13 all over again. Okay, not exactly, and this wouldn't normally make the game bad, but when a game expects repetition from you, there has to be variance somewhere to keep it interesting. Collecting keys doesn't change up the game flow too much when most of them are along the main path right out in the open. The game was clearly made around Team Sonic first because their playthroughs are the most consistent quality, and both Rose and Chaotix feel like they got the least amount of attention. Sega is known by now for biting off way more than they can chew. Their ambition is admirable and clearly comes from a place of passionate artists aplenty, but this goose needed longer in the oven before being served. Game design is tricky, I understand that. The financial people you get bossed around by are always making demands that are harder and harder to meet. In the modern age with game updates, most games come out incomplete now, making Sega with their incomplete games less of a standout. If their games had come out just 10 to 15 years later, these games could have received updates that fix up issues with AI and control, and we could have had a much better Sonic Heroes. More money and time could have given us a complete product to start, of course, but Team Chaotix and Team Rose deserve way more than what they got, man. Team Dark only gets away by the skin of their teeth because they're a hard mode that takes you through the same places as Team Sonic. In fact, I sometimes enjoy their stages more. They get additional opportunities for harder to achieve shortcuts, which brings back the variety I appreciate. However, on the other side of that coin, when their stages veer too hard into additional combat in its latter half, Team Sonic is better. You'll see what I mean when we get to the final level. If you're still watching at this point, instead of asking you to subscribe, I'd like to ask something else. What have you thought of the video so far? What do you think of Sonic Heroes? I want to know how I can improve as a content creator and what people's individual opinions are on the game instead of the general consensus of the internet at large. I want to hear from people. Only if you want to, though. Back to more Sonic autism. Mystic Mansion's also doing something cool with its music, just like its predecessor. They segment it, making it so you have to reach a certain point in the level before it progresses. Before you enter the 2 doors before you, it will linger on the quieter, calmer part, and it only moves on to the bopping once you pass them.
All right. Here we go.
Hey, you surprised me.
It's a nice touch that further backs me up when I say Sonic Team was telling a whole story in these stages. The globes have been repurposed to bending the level design around you instead of flipping things on their head. And they take that mind-bending reality stuff pretty far. If we take a second to look at the walls and floors, you can see they've got skulls aplenty, bony arms interlocked, and even bats along the floor. Is it heavy-handed? Yeah, but in the way an old Scooby-Doo cartoon looks. I like how unashamed Sonic Heroes is of itself, and it's made all the better when you see Scully peering out from behind the door in a room ahead, only to come around to the back and see he's nowhere to be found. Its spooky theming is fun, and that makes me tolerate the less desirable parts of this level. Mystic Mansion is when the game veers further into combat for all of the teams. While there were some instances of enemies blocking your way forward in the prior stages, this one amps it up with egg hammers. It still isn't even that bad, as you can see. The emphasis on combat is only exacerbated because we're progressing forward through linear hallways. To be clear, the earlier levels had plenty of points where you're bottlenecked down a singular path without much choice. There's just much more of that here, which amplifies the issue of having to play the same level 4 times, yada yada. You've got it by now. If you didn't have to repeat these stages 4 times without much difference, I think these stages would be fire. Once again, the freedom of choice, like being able to replay Sonic 3 and Knuckles as the other characters if you choose, changes our relationship with the game. In my mind, most games would be made worse if they locked the final bit of story behind 100%ing it. Sonic Heroes doesn't force you to 100% it, thank God, but what it asks of you is repetition that not everyone agreed to when they purchased the game way back when. This section right here makes me think puzzle platformer more than any other. Thanks, Chowmix. Your video can't get the association out of my head. Getting to change the layout of the room according to which globe you hit is a freedom in it of itself, allowing us the rare opportunity to feel like we're the ones in control of the level's elements. A very, very minor version of getting to play Mario Maker and the like. What are you doing there? Oh, do I hate how getting to the correct elevation for these switches takes so much time. I can't be the only one that struggles foolishly like this. I'm also starting to notice the start and stop gameplay peaking in this level. Other stage gimmicks had you moving, and it's definitely less fun to have to stop every 30 seconds for a switch or a door. See, you open a door here, come into the room, hit a switch, then have to defeat enemies to get through another closed door. Then another enemy locks that door, which leads into another room with an egg hammer and a locked door. It's actually a lot worse than I thought. By the way, this is the egg hammer with the annoying helmet. Say hello, everyone.
Hello there.
The extended combat and actually having to maneuver around enemies like this is showing the weaknesses of the camera. How many times do you think I can say, strong level theme held back by control? At least this is the first time I can say a level is noticeably below standard of the rest. Juxtaposed against its much stronger first act, it makes Mystic Mansion look even worse. The non-standard progression here is what this level needed more of. Get us accustomed to beat enemies open door, and then put us in rooms where the way out is something we don't expect, like jumping into the water fountain minus the water. Let's appreciate some more of their efforts. Do you see our dizzying path forward on the bobsled? We travel through empty painting frames that gradually twist as we move on, then come into a wide open cave decorated with skull rocks. The cave is reflected in the water's surface all the way back on GameCube. All these details I missed in the prior years because I was focused on going fast, but I don't think it's entirely my fault. The strong orange of everything makes it all blend together. If I were to take a screenshot of that prior scene and try my hand at photoshopping the skulls to stand out some more, look at what this scene could be. We leave all that fun speed behind just to come up to another classic. Single enemy blocking a door. Gotta admit, this is purely filler that pads out this level longer than it needed to be. Out of all the stages, I'm pretty sure this one is in competition for the longest, if not the longest, due to how this stage is mostly one road forward.
It's really steep here. Be careful.
Oh great, there goes 7 minutes of gameplay in an instant. No A rank for me. You know what would have been better? Falling to a lower path with more challenging platforming. Or maybe a group of enemies I needed to defeat to get back up on the upper path. You could make the argument that this is the second to last zone, so it should be difficult, but is this really difficulty? Land this precise jump or redo 7 minutes for another chance at an A rank. I'm going to need extra convincing because that didn't really feel like my fault. This game did not need to have so many bottomless pits. They're great for tension, but not when they're literally everywhere. Wow, so trippy. Okay, despite my complaining, this is an iconic part of the Mystic Mansion. Do we even know what exactly these squigglies are? Are we even still in the same mansion at this point? What is going on? After following a trail of rings, we're taken to 3 long bridges with monitors indicating a certain leader should take lead here. When entering one of the areas, you're presented with a challenge dedicated to each of the leaders that no other can perform. Considering this is close to the end of the game, this is almost like a final exam you need to pass before the game allows you into its final zone. Sure, they could turn down the saturation a bit, especially on that red if you're prone to migraines, but they effectively get across a trippy, unexpected climactic finish to the stage. I definitely ran out of lives here as a kid. I have a very distinct memory of this part due to the colors and the struggles, and that goes to show how great a job Sonic Team did with this part. This is memorable, and while it's easier to form core memories as a kid, you can't tell me you don't recall at least one thing from every single one of these stages. Notice too how they focus on platforming for Team Sonic. Keep that in the back of your mind for later. I'm going to be bringing this up again for comparison's sake. Got it memorized? Good. Just don't memorize the cheap shot the game got on me. Pretty please? I don't know about you, but the end of the stage is a huge relief. Seeing the blue sky and the green all around is a genuine weight off of my shoulders. I wish I was over there, running around in the green and flowers, rather than trapped in a spooky castle. But now, I'm free. Like a true haunted house, though, it's not going to let you out so easily. We've got 3 other teams to talk about, of course. Team Rose's progression is much easier as usual. They even start you off with a ring box, making it nice and easy for you. You know, I had an idea for a Sonic Heroes randomizer. Imagine this, each of the members of your team get randomized, but even the stages themselves get randoed. What do I mean by this? Imagine you get a randomized objective out of the 4 teams, but even more than that, the stage would be a mashup of all 4 teams' layouts. Maybe you'd start with a ring box at the beginning, but then the combat room would be one for Team Dark. Maybe you could randomize every non-essential robot spawn too. I would cry if I wandered into Seaside Hill and immediately saw 3 egg hammers waiting to pound me into submission. Their version of the level ends right at the skull here, and out of all the stages for Team Rose, this one definitely lacks the most for them. It literally just ends and blah 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 misses the climactic finish and storytelling they put into the stage. Have they proven themselves to be a not so good way to experience the game? The levels lose so much by being chopped up, even if it does improve the flow of the game for some. Time to serve up the worst stage objective in the game on a silver platter. Read that right there with me. Blow out all the red torches. Now, let's look at the lower right corner. 60 red torches. Well, they throw 4 right in front of us, so it can't be that bad, right? Wrong. This is the worst. Not only is this an objective where you need to extinguish every single one, but to do so, you need to repeatedly do the tornado move. Talk about start and stop gameplay. There's more stop than start. Question: what stopped them from simply making this room have 1 torch instead of 6? What is added to the experience by blowing out multiple within a short distance of one another? Trick question: there is no additional challenge gain. It is purely a time waster. Simple as that. Not only do I need to linger in the next room for even longer to fight the enemies, but I must first blow out the torches. Woohoo! This is not meaningfully different, and there is no value but padding the runtime of the stage. Is that harsh of me? No. That's exactly what this deserves. More than ever, I wish Team Chaotix had an open zone design that was wildly different than the other stages, other teams' stage progression. There we go. Woohoo! Imagine going through a mansion laid out closer to what an actual building would be like, but each room is impossibly large and has platforming challenges to progress through. What if we got to see this mansion's dining room and we had to avoid haunted dishes flying at us? What about a bathroom that starts flooding once we enter putting us on a clock to get up and out. All of this would have meant more money spent on development, but that's the price to pay to make a formula like this great. Is it fun to run around this circular hallway looking for torches? They attempt to mess with you by having it endlessly loop in on itself, and they get me with it. I end up spending 5 minutes looking for the switch because I returned to the previous room thinking it might have been hidden behind the many globes. They could have prevented this mistake by making the flower not allow your return after entering the endless hallway, but it is also my mistake. Silly me. The old man who can't find a single switch floating up above. It didn't help that the help they provide here refers to it as a switch, but I wouldn't consider whatever this is as a switch. Some things never change, it seems. I have a distinctive memory of the stage taking me 30 minutes as a child. At that age, was it my fault for being so foolish? Or did the game designers not more clearly signpost where I should be looking? I'm pretty sure Kid Me also went back through the flower portal to check in the previous room to no avail. I might have even given up once or twice to try it later. The melee attack, pushing your character forward, plus this egg hammer's whole heart box, makes fighting them a chore. You don't want to use ranged attacks on them, because that makes your teammates enter a hurt state where they can't be used for multiple seconds. But if you get into melee, you'll probably accidentally bump the hammer, or the big dude himself, and take damage. Not a well-designed enemy at all. Sonic Team was clearly experimenting with making their stages more exploration-focused here, and I can see it. Team Sonic about platforming, Team Dark about combat, and Team Chaotix about exploration. They had a winning formula here, but not the money to iterate on the different styles to make them unique enough for 4 playthroughs. As for what Team Rose does, I can't think of anything that they focus on. Truth be told, they feel like bloat. I can't think of a purpose for them to focus on besides being in easy mode. Actually, the more I think about it, the more I realize Shadow the Hedgehog, colloquially known as Shadow 05, is Team Chaotix's linear stages plus objective focus expanded upon in its own game. Well, that and the combat with guns and such. Maybe Shadow 05 can be considered the direct sequel to Sonic Heroes. What a thought. In terms of gameplay, not just storyline. Hopefully you've learned by now that when in doubt, flying formation is your out. There's no way in the 7 hells that I, after playing this entire game, will try to navigate this web of rails with anything other than flying formation. Again, I like it visually, but don't like it when it comes to actually interacting with it. Unique factor 100, fun factor mid, like 50. The well dive has an interesting quirk here involving the blue flames I haven't spoken on. The challenge version of this stage tasks you with putting out all the blue flames instead, and if you're paying attention here, you can see a sort of reflection of the red flames with the blue beneath the transparent surface. It's a great mind-bending touch that stokes the flames of conflict in my heart for how to feel about this game.
Good job. Nothing more to be said.
Wow, a B rank for that performance? Even the developers must have known this level couldn't have high expectations of us. Still have a pin in the thing I told you to memorize? Here, Team Dark is forced to fight enemies in an incredibly cramped space. Great. The important thing to focus on is their challenge is combat instead of platforming, further reinforcing the idea that they may be a hard mode, but this hard mode is meant to consist of more difficult combat encounters predominantly. Phew, we're through the low point of Sonic Heroes. Time for me to grab that 6th Chaos Emerald with Team Rose. This one actually takes some more time to get right, but it's mostly because of the turns. Collecting the balloons is harder than it looks. And what I noticed near the end here is, when I try to fight the turn and remain on the bottom, it cuts my speed. However, when I let the game have full control and just boost forward, it flips me around to the top and lets me go fast. Man, these special stages are like learning how to ride a horse. You need to learn how to read and work with the horse to work in unison. It's unpredictable like an animal too. Huge criticism right off the bat for this boss fight. Why has the scene reset to Hang Castle's look when we ended in a cheerier place? It's a regression in visual storytelling to adhere to a formula. And while Hang Castle is undeniably cool, why are we here again? Did we catch Eggman in the distance and run back towards him? Why isn't he up on his egg fleet? Having a fight for the sake of maintaining the formula is how you get middling experiences that end up hollow feeling. If we were to use my rewrites of the team fights, this would be a perfect place to slot in another fight between teams. Sonic and Chaotix and Dark and Rose could have their brawl against their metal counterparts. Ooh, imagine if they took advantage of the end of the stage's water surrounding the characters, and the metal doppelgangers rose out of the water. Getting to spend more time in that area we ended in, fighting the last team you haven't fought, would flow better than randomly having Eggman be here and not on his egg fleet. This robot fight also has arena transitions, making it a hefty chunk longer than the one in Casino Park. With careful play, you can get through the fights quickly, and I find this mostly inoffensive outside of the story dissonance. Mostly. There's a part of this fight as Team Chaotix that offends my very soul to its core. This, right here, is the point of the game that drove me up a wall more than any other. It looks so simple and fun, right? Shoot your characters over to hit the enemies. Any issue we faced prior can be team blasted away, so why don't I try that here? Oh, it didn't work. Well, I guess it's time to hop into the cannon and shoot to plenty, right? Okay, we're all finished. Surely that has to be it, right?
This is only the beginning.
Help me. I can't get out. Every time I shoot myself out of the cannon, I end up back in the cannon over and over again. The worst part, I break free from the cannon loop, but enemies that are crowding around the cannon decide to knock me off the stage. That's redoing 6 minutes of gameplay entirely against my will. Not only is this part of the fight lengthy, it also did this both times I defeated them. I only broke free by getting knocked the right direction and jumping before I got hit again. This sequence clearly wasn't made to be this frustrating, but jank strikes again. Jank heroes, more like. There is so much friggin' potential here, held back by control. Oh, sorry. Took a few minutes to compose myself. Being a Sonic fan for a few decades makes your grip on reality slip away like a black cat in the night.
You fools must all have a death wish. Witness this invincible battleship built by the hands of a genius. Its power unmatched throughout the universe.
All right, Eggman. Let's get this party started.
Egg Fleet's epic grandiose scale is here to experience, and our heroes open up with a declaration of their resolve to defeat Eggman, starting with Team Sonic. We've often been tasked with infiltrating Eggman's airships, from Flying Battery to Flying Battery again in Sonic Mania. This one, however, had to be the most epic infiltration to date. I'd say it's even competitive with modern Sonic, because traversing all these vessels also includes blowing them to smithereens, much like Bullet Station. Freeze frame while we're this high. Did you notice that each of the larger ships are a type of fish? The larger blue ones are swordfish, the smaller red ones are a fish, maybe like a shark or something. Now that I've said it wrong, you're going to go right to the comments and tell me what it is, aren't you? Well, go ahead. I'm waiting. I've got all day.
3 hours later.
Done yet? Good. Don't worry. Even if you defy me, I still love you. The large purple one in the background is a manta ray, which is where Final Fortress takes place, I think. I bet you're going to go right to the comments. This is terrifying. I distinctly remember this long fall to the rail below and being so worried I'd miss. Despite this game being filled to the brim with bottomless pits, they somehow made their last 2 zones twice as terrifying to fall off at. That long drop really allows the player to feel how high up they are. And this is what I mean when they mastered the storytelling of these levels. The pumping intro, the speed, the bopping music, and then the free falling. The tension is ramped up to 11, and you can sense it down to your very bones. This entire stage is traversed aboard these ships, and look at that. Along the ground are more subtle arrows guiding your hand. It's not that I need help knowing where to go, but in the same way that we're drawn to light when in the dark, there's a satisfaction with following it. The red wires connecting the ships here are like a gross entanglement of unnatural veins fueling this absurdly interconnected fleet of ships. The platforms themselves are very gamey floating in the air, but I'm willing to let shortcomings of 20 years ago slide. They were doing their first multi-platform release and weren't doing well financially, so even getting a product of this quality is honestly a miracle. Egad, not these robots. These are known as E2000 series, and they're Mega Man rejects. If you attack them while they're not busy or stunned, they will pull up this shield that makes them entirely impervious to damage. When given the chance, they will attempt to hit you with a huge laser beam. They actually have less health than the egg hammer, and dodging their beam gives you plenty of time to wail on them. Or, you know, you can do what I do when I see them. Remember Frog Forest's flowers? Here's where that training comes in. The many ships we will fly past have cannons that will fire relentlessly at us, and moving up and down is the only way to get out of harm's way. Your teammates will tell you whether you need to go up or down, which some may find annoying, but I'm personally a fan of them being in character here. They don't want to be blown up either, and it's not entirely clear otherwise due to the camera angle we have.
Ready to land on the battleship.
As we land on the first swordfish, this long run forwards between cannons and enemies flying overhead dropping bombs is exhilarating. Most stages have a particularly climactic finish, but I feel like at least half of Egg Fleet is at 10 out of 10 wild factor. Half the stage is the climax. This is one part of the game where you need to use the rocket excel. It's like the devs themselves knew, because they kept the single challenge involving it to a simple straightaway. Busting through it shows us a cinematic of the ship we're on being entirely wrecked, and we fly up from the wreckage triumphantly. That isn't even the end of the stage, by the way. Yeah, that's just the midpoint. You saw how many more ships there were in the sky, right?
We've got to destroy more of them.
More than any other stage, you finally get to properly destroy what feels like a significant portion of Eggman's forces. I just wanted to point out how much you can tell I love this music. This is the gamer's way of tapping their foot to a beat. You can tell my bias for this game is DNA deep by now. I got that evolved hero's brain chemistry. What am I saying anymore? Who knows? I've been recording for hours and can barely keep my thoughts straight. Seriously, I hit every single one of these with a Team Blast. Appropriate Team Blast management is a skill that gets you far in this game. After this battleship blows up, we cut off the stage mid-air surprisingly. I wasn't expecting nor remembered this change up, but it's a welcome one. Reminds me of how Sonic 3 had act transitions that continued from where Act 1 ended. As you can see, they start at the first ship's 3 rails, diminishing that feeling of freaky free falling. You know, there is a specific instance in which I would advocate someone play Team Rose over Team Sonic if they are only to play one team. If you're a returning player that wants to bask in the nostalgia of the game, hearing the music, moving through familiar spaces, but not be challenged so your flow isn't ruined by frustration, like playing Minecraft Survival on peaceful mode. Oh, I know how to describe it. Team Rose is the cozy comfort team. Team Sonic is platforming, Team Dark is combat, Team Chaotix is exploration, and Team Rose is vibes. I say it in a joking manner, but I'm 100% serious. There is a purpose for that kind of playstyle. At this point, I was basking in the jank. Did you know there was once a point in my life where I said, I don't remember games from my day being all glitchy? Why can't they make games like they did on the PS2? Games have always been broken. I just didn't remember. Rather, I didn't recognize stuff like this as unintended from the game. Back then, what you see is what you get. Then again, I can't recall a single old game I played in my youth that had a T-posing character glitch I experienced.
Why would he need so many ships? Maybe he just had a lot of time on his hands.
Look at all the fishy ships. I think I saw the fishy.
Damn, Cream was out of pocket with that comment, and Big is not even listening. Bro's only got his goal in mind. No room for anything else. I respect it. You're kidding. Team Rose doesn't even get to down their own battleship before the stage is over? That's zero fun. Let girls and fat men have awesome moments too. I've said it every level for them by now, so I'll put a sock in it and move on. Not getting detected doesn't include cannons, thankfully. Funny thing I want to mention, when I was writing this script, I temporarily skipped writing this part with the intent to come back to it and nearly forgot to. The stealth mission almost snuck even under my nose. In truth, I haven't found much to say about their stage. SBO is capable of attacking foes as long as he isn't unstealthed as far as I know. Despite this objective being painful in one of the alternate missions I played, it's a reasonable challenge here that, while not enjoying it particularly, I didn't mind doing it. They don't ask anything ridiculous of you, nor do they surprise you with enemies you couldn't see coming. A bad version of this objective would be purely running around as SBO, but this stage asks you to use the others plenty. You can also team blast enemies to effectively remove them as obstacles, sneak up as SBO, hit the win button, and slay. Sadly, these guys get no battleship destruction either. It'd be a funky stealth mission if you were blowing up ships, that's for sure. A pretty decent change of pace that I don't mind. Considering their last objective was pain incarnate, I can appreciate something that's just alright.
You'll regret this, Doctor. Even if I'm not real, I'm still the ultimate life form, Shadow the Hedgehog.
Wow, it's his entire character arc resolution from Shadow 05 summed up in one scene. You know, besides the part in the final Super Shadow boss fight where Eggman confirms Shadow is the real one.
What I said about having created you, it was all a lie. Everyone thought you died during that horrible incident, but I rescued you with one of my robots.
Did you know that? Sonic Shorts have taught me more than playing the games themselves have.
We're flying very high. We might even be at the edge of space.
Space. Did you say space?
I know people like to joke about Maria being a trigger word for him, but apparently space is too. At least both of them are uncommon enough to come up in conversation, and even less likely to be paired together in a sentence. Space is where Maria died.
The E2000, so they're in production.
This comment grounds the world further in an imaginable reality while also dating him compared to these newer models. I love the type of character that switches from the evil side to the good. They always have the richest backgrounds. I can't believe I used to stand here and wait for the Team Blast to run out. It took me over 20 years to figure it out. I know it seems ridiculous to say so, but it's something that's blown my mind to discover. Let's watch this in slow-mo. I hit B too late to follow the trail of rings, but reacted quickly enough to save the jump with my momentum. Jumping when already airborne is definitely unintended, but I appreciate the game throwing me a bone in at least one way. I think Eggman mass-producing his robots leads to more glitches in their system than he realizes. I didn't even catch this while playing. Interesting. Team Dark and Team Sonic, if I'm not mistaken, have an identical level geometry layout. More interesting. That was close, my gosh. The auto-targeting nearly took away my perfect run a step from the finish. How does the target priority work in this game? I was closer to the E2000 than the turret, but Omega goes for it anyways. I wonder if the devs decided, with intentionality, that fighting enemies on platforms way too small for proper combat was acceptable challenge. Not once, but twice did I nearly lose my earned A rank to auto-targeting. Get me out of there. Ooh, the sense of continuity via flying through the air to this battleship is a lovely touch. Ironic for me to say, considering that going from Mystic Mansion to Egg Fleet had not so much as a drop of interconnectivity. Did they find a plane that they could use to get up? Was there a conveniently placed teleporter that brought them to the Egg Fleet, like Sonic Adventure 2? Can't tell me the flying characters brought them here. Huh, that's a funny joke. Final Fortress, however, is no joke. If the shift to a more foreboding atmosphere wasn't evidence enough of this, my tragic and immediate demise should prove otherwise. Besides that, this is a darker, more foreboding interpretation of Skydeck. Red is Eggman's color, and paired with naturally accompanying metallic grays, some comparisons are to be drawn. Maybe they took inspiration during the moments of Skydeck where you're getting blown around. Turning that into an entire stage isn't something I knew I wanted, but this is pretty powerful stuff. The actual level design of Final Fortress is very focused, you could say. For almost the entirety of the stage, you're heading in a straight line forwards without any turns left or right. I would knock a few points off for it, but this seems to be an intentional choice to reflect the focus of blitzing towards your final goal. No more distractions, it's time to end this. The level still offers you multiple paths forward, such as these poles that skip you past a more dangerous and timely lower path. These long corridors give us the most extensive use out of the triangle jump yet, and while Sonic likes to stick to jumping up walls like Mario these days, there's great potential here. Do you remember the jump pads in Sonic Adventure 1, or jumping between obstacles in Sonic 06? This feels like a controllable version of those moves. What does it have in common with Triangle Dive, besides being in Sonic Heroes? Nothing, and it's better that way. It's a shame this move is never seen again, since Sonic prefers to sprint along walls with the boost now. Not necessarily saying that's a bad thing, but it would be nice to see it come back. I don't understand why Sonic and Tails got bonked back here. The Egg Hammer's whack hitbox, I understand. But what about this McDonald's Gundam reject causes it here? I played correctly. I stunned the enemy so I could beat him up, but got punished for no reason at all. How about my Thunder Shoot here not connecting at all? I'd give this game a 9 out of 10, because 9 out of 10 times it works, but 1 out of 10 times it just doesn't.
Here we go! Never thought it would actually self-destruct. It's blown to pieces.
Wonder why it's self-destructed.
Everyone's comments make me think they're questioning why Eggman has self-destruct switches on his literally final fortress, and it makes me think that they are fishy. Maybe Metal Sonic planted them there to help the heroes progress. Or, perhaps, it's a nefarious trap meant to take the heroes in the explosion. Could be either. Stage gimmick up ahead. Color coding the lasers doesn't work when it's your first time through the stage. It would have been much better to say, quick, move off the lit rail, or something similar. Keep the 3 colors though. It's cute the main colors of Sonic Heroes are being repped in Eggman's ship of all things. Thankfully, jumping between these rails isn't so bad, if only because they go straight forwards and are completely level with one another. In a completely controlled environment, rail switching works 9 out of 10 times. So tell me then, why this bit of automation sent me into a pit? Sonic Heroes? More like all my levels and score have been reset to 0. I should probably address the overabundance of dialogue throughout the game. You can hardly go 30 seconds without one of the characters telling you how to play. I see both sides of the argument. On one hand, you've got the people who feel as if the game is being condescending, because they've even got these tutorials for mechanics they've introduced 13 stages ago being repeated to you. On the other hand, having the characters more vocal enhances the team element of the game, making it properly feel as if they're working together. I believe we could have had the best of both worlds if more of the dialogue was unique, as well as having a toggle to turn it off if you so please. Make it less repetitive, and give people an option to opt out. A win-win. Have you noticed the numbered walls? This one says 4. I don't know what it's counting up to, but now we know we're 4 layers deep, I guess. No stun, followed by my melee hits being too short to properly connect with my opponent. You can't say earlier that I should have just been meleeing the other E2000, because the game doesn't want me to do anything except Team Blast, it seems. At least the game has the courtesy to throw them on a larger platform for once. At this point, they're throwing egg hammers at us like they're going out of style, and if it were at any other point in the game, I'd take issue with it. However, since this is the last level, I can kind of understand it. I don't like fighting them, but they were not frustrating, so I realize you can't see me shrugging my shoulders. I am shrugging. All those enemies weren't the final climax though. We've got plenty of conveniently placed lasers to dodge. Let's not consider the absurdity of creating rails that led to the center of the base instead of, not. But I switched to flying formation real quick at the end stretch. I don't trust Sonic Heroes. They're like that one friend you have that is always showing up late or canceling last minute. You know them well enough to know that their only consistency is their inconsistency. You don't dislike them or get mad at them for it anymore. No. You just accept that it's how they are and lower your expectations accordingly. After all, they are fun when they do finally show up. Does that analogy make sense? Eggman's big head attempts one more huge laser blast, but we quickly outpace this end set piece and get to blowing up his big egg head, same as we did in Bullet Station. It's interesting that both of Eggman's bases are considered cleared once we blow up the man's likeness in the middle. At least his ego is consistent. This is a quick aside I should have put in earlier, but I want to put the physics of the special stages on full blast. Apparently, jumping while boosting as flying formation sends you zooming forwards. Just found it funny is all. Team Rose starts on some random platform somewhere in the stage as usual. As near the beginning, but yeah. What else is there to even say about Team Rose that isn't beating a downed horse? Their levels are easy, missing out on the intended flow of the stages, and are otherwise fine.
This weather reminds me of our last attack on the egg carrier. You've been in battle before? What? You threw it to me?
See? This writing style isn't fundamentally all too different to what people get mad at, but the key difference is that isn't all this interaction is. Cream learns something about the other two, so it isn't an offhanded throwaway comment that just winks at the viewers. It still does absolutely wink at the viewers, but it's entirely reasonable for Amy to make a comment like this. Amy and co don't even get to destroy anything. Maybe Team Rose is the pacifist playthrough. I don't know. All that's needed to be said about them has been said. So let's wrap up Team Chaotix's campaign. Eggman says he's been captured, but here's my questions. If he was captured, why didn't he ask them to come directly to him as soon as possible? It's made me consider that Eggman might have not been captive the entire time, and might have been actively fleeing Metal Sonic until recently. It's far more likely that he's been captured since the beginning, but that storyline doesn't justify the BS Team Chaotix went through up until this point. As it stands, their progression is very arbitrary, and felt like the devs threw darts at a board full of ideas for objectives to decide how they'd proceed. If you recall how I mentioned this level is predominantly moving in one direction, you can probably imagine that finding the keys are more of a formality than anything. You can find more than enough if you look around, but there are plenty of keys simply in your path. Destroy robots, unlock cage, grab key, proceed, rinse, repeat. It changed the level's progression as much as you think it might, which is almost not at all. I might have had to play through the entire level, but I'm going to save you a few minutes off the video length and move on to wrapping up Team Dark. Overall, Team Chaotix is a mixed bag of objectives that hardly change progression, and some are so bad that they have the potential to double level length. None of the objectives bring too much to the table by themselves. If you like playing Sonic Heroes, you might enjoy them a smidge, but only because this is still the Sonic Heroes gameplay you enjoy. The only satisfaction I found while playing is when I managed to clear the stages faster than normal by finding hidden spots for additional collectibles. Hey now, Team Dark doesn't get to have the cool as ice entrance without earning it first, and that's all I have to say that's unique enough for me to point out. Same song and dance as Team Sonic, but more enemies. There aren't even major deviations in the path forwards. So, yeah. That's it for the main stages for all the characters. Okay, maybe there's a little bit more. Check out these T-posing bots. I guess Chaos Control even affects bots spawning in. Overall, Team Dark is more enjoyable than Team Sonic for me, at least in their main stages. Their additional difficulty also meant an abundance of shortcuts that I consistently went for, and succeeding made their playthrough all the sweeter. The combat isn't too much more, at least not a meaningful amount. They are a hard mode, and they succeed at being a smidge harder. They aren't that difficult, maybe like 10% harder. Not a very difficult game once you wrangle down the jank to the best of your ability. The additional challenges notwithstanding, of course. Speaking of additional challenges, we've got that final special stage to tackle. I almost managed to catch up to it in the very beginning, but barely clipping one of the bombs cost me a ton of distance on it. That's another thing. The bombs not only completely tank your speed, but they actively drain your boost gauge. So, turn a corner too quickly, hit a bomb, and tell me you don't come out of that special stage empty-handed and feeling cheated. Don't we also love going fast, only to completely lose all momentum by falling from the ceiling randomly? It's very cool. What's even cooler is that this special stage throws you a bone at the end by completely filling your boost gauge. There's no bombs in sight, so you think I'd have been able to catch up. Nope. Randomly losing all momentum again on a turn. Just a big ol' slap in the face. We'll have to come back to this later. I still have words for the final boss, Egg Emperor.
This time you won't get away!
Give it up! This looks like checkmate, Doctor.
Enough of this! Sonic, Tail, Knuckles! I'll be your maker. I'll show you what real evil is.
The design of this bot is real cool, and even has Eggman's signature spiky mustache. Its overall look is iconic and serviceable as a final boss, but when we get to the mechanics, it's time for some Sonic Heroes jank. His main method of attack are these slices you need to dodge, and when on the main path, they're not much issue at all. They become even less of an issue when you enter the arena parts where you can actually beat him up some. Neither are the missiles he fires after that. Just keep on moving and they shouldn't hit you. The problem comes and with how they interact with the booster panels. If you do not wait for Egg Emperor to completely move out of your trajectory, you have a chance of bumping into him mid-air, which loses you a life guaranteed if you're over a pit. He can also continue his attack pattern in the air, so you can run into the slices if you're not careful. Once you know that, you think you can simply wait him out, right? Wrong. There's a sense of urgency to keep up with him, because if you let him get too far ahead, which isn't that far at all, he'll do as the other moving bosses do. Charge towards you. Unlike those other two bosses, his charge will damage you. If he gets too far ahead as you hit the booster panels, he will charge into you mid-air and send you into the death plane post-haste. This boss is super easy once you know all of this and can play around it, but until you do, he'll get cheap shots on you left and right, creating a frustrating trial and error experience. If you can get the Egg Emperor to one of his arenas, things get a whole lot easier. You can worry about damaging him here, and while on the runways, go out of your way to grab as many level ups as you can. He has 2 health bars, one for his shield, another for the main body. The shield, as you might expect, can protect him from damage as long as he holds it up. Tackle these arenas by going around to destroy the cannons that will otherwise impede on your Eggman booty bonking. Then grab the ring boxes in them and get to town wailing on him till he flies off. Repeat till destroyed and you win. It's an incredibly simple boss once you realize how you need to tackle it, but it will drain lives from a new player unless they tackle it very cautiously. Even still, who would expect that you could get hit in the air by attacks? It's a cheap shot, no matter how you slice it. Now, to show the power of a good Thundershoot. Thanks to the existence of the shield, the Thundershoot can bounce repeatedly between the main body and the shield. You see where I'm going with this. After using Team Blast, Omega decides he really wants his revenge right meow. He clings to the cockpit and completely wrecks Eggman in a matter of seconds. Surely that had something to do with the Chaos Control and isn't something that any team can do, right? Well, you don't need to. Get level 3 on Flying Formation and watch Team Chaotic CC lock and destroy Eggman from half health. It is genuinely this easy. Simultaneously easy, yet not. They call these beginner traps, because once you know, you'll never struggle with it again. For a final boss, it's not particularly difficult outside of cheap shots. How could they fix this? Remove the BS getting hit while transitioning between platforms, give a clearer telegraph before Eggman charges you, and then you've got a much better fight. I'd suggest also giving him a few more attacks, because he's really rather simple when he just stands there and mostly lets you wail on him. This whole game can be summed up as, do some tweaks and it'd be great fun. Fix the game and it'll be fun. Who would have thought? Red Emerald attempt number 2. Want more jank? Here's more jank. How about some running backwards? These physics cause me physical pain to interact with, but we're done. No more special stages. I'm free.
I'm free.
Free to conclude the end of this game with the final story. Did you notice that? Before you unlocked access to the last story, Metal Sonic was just chilling in the back. But now that I've unlocked him, he's seen almost stepping out from within the borders of his selection menacingly. Also, was I the only one as a kid who saw him on the selection screen and thought he was his own team that would run through all the levels. Imagine a super OP Neo Metal Sonic running through all of the stages, being all 3 of the types by himself. Kid me would have loved if I had gotten that. And you know what? Adult me still wants it too. Replaying this game has re-established a connection with so many of my old memories, man. Despite everything, I do love this game. The last story begins with Team Chaotix probing Eggman for answers after having previously beat him senseless. Everyone had thought they had wrapped everything up. Cream and Big got Chocola and Froggy back. Amy got to chase after Sonic. Rouge is... wait, hold up a sec. Team Dark's story and cutscene actually has something substantial going on. Rouge enters Eggman's facility to attempt to look for a fabled secret treasure that started their whole adventure off. She, however, is taken aback by rows that stretch on forever of shadows and stasis. Omega enters shortly after, and Rouge attempts to come clean about Shadow's existence, but stops herself before saying much. Omega intuits what she's on about, reminding her for there to be clones, there has to be an original out there to find. Shadow and Rouge catch up with some casual chatter thereafter, and wow, Omega's grown to be less violent, not caring that Shadow might be a robot. On top of that, he reassures Rouge, who wanted to come clean about information she thought she was hiding from him. Shadow's even shown to be remembering, albeit subtly, with his one comment,
"Something's never changed."
It's pretty subtle stuff, and these developments are what have endeared Sonic fans to Team Dark. Team Dark's fake-out ending is the only one that feels remotely believable. Everyone else remains mostly static after having achieved their goals, but Team Dark is the odd one out. Rouge leaves empty-handed, Shadow didn't get to question the doctor, and, well, Omega kind of got what he wanted. Not really. See, we come to find that everything was masterminded by Metal Sonic donning a brand new form and name, Neo Metal Sonic. Also, an epilepsy warning. I'm going to have to put a filter over this in the recording. Yikes. And Pokemon's infamous Porygon episode was bad. Neo Metal Sonic goes in for the finishing blow to end any epileptic person watching, taking on another, more powerful form. The game frames it as something horrifying, with these dramatic zooms on each bit of Metal Overlord's intricate transformation. The artistic choice for the cinematography here is excellent stuff, especially 20 years ago. The camera pulls back to our characters having witnessed his transformation. Eggman laments what has happened, saying he combined everyone's data with the power of chaos to become final boss worthy. If only we had the 7 Chaos Emeralds. Everyone then comedically pulls out the 7 Chaos Emeralds one by one. Amy shows concern for Sonic going super alone, but Tails and Knuckles demand to join him. Shadow says everyone else will buy them time, and the first part of the final boss begins. Well, after...
Okay then, let's get ready to do this. We'll show that creep the real superpower of teamwork.
Even if I love it, I have to admit it. It's a wee bit cringe. Metal Madness. What a name. Team Rose goes first, attempting to get proper justice against the robot kidnapper.
You're the one pretending to be Sonic. You're the one responsible for taking Froggy and Chocola. I can't believe you would do such a thing.
You're going to pay for this.
Let's talk gameplay. Metal Madness has a single spot where he can be hit, and it's this glowing spot that's currently blue. This whole fight revolves around hitting said spot with the formation that isn't the same color. Right now, since it's blue, it's immune to speed formation attacks. Metal Madness shoots out some missiles, sweeps across the arena with his flamethrower arm, and sweeps across with a much faster moving tail. Team Rose has 2 team blasts in the back part of their arena, so grab one, use it, attack him freely during the invincibility, and bada bing bada boom, he's down, but not out. Team Chaotix follows up the assault on Metal Madness's right hip with one on the left. A cannon in the back houses 2 level ups, so grab those, then rinse and repeat. He's got a new attack with his hand where he shoots out his fingers at you. If they connect, they create bubbles that trap one character inside of them. They'll remain there until you bust their bubbles, and now his weak spot will change colors. Simple stuff. Homing attacks feel risky, but I didn't fall off in this attempt, surprisingly. It's definitely a better designed boss than Egg Emperor, if only because the boss clearly telegraphs its attacks and remains stationary for you to attack him. Team Dark pulls up at the front to continue the pain. There are 3 level ups for each character around the arena, so grab them before starting your attack. Since Team Dark has access to Chaos Control, you can imagine that it won't take much to down him as this power trio. Metal Madness cries out in defeat, but instead of actually being defeated, he sprouts wings and flies off. Using the power of the Chaos Emeralds, Sonic goes super, while Tails and Knuckles become his Super Balls. No clue where their super forms are, but beyond that anticlimax, we take off to the true final fight of this game. If you've played any other Supersonic boss fight, you know what's up. You're invincible, but if you run out of rings, it's bye-bye to super form. Keep your rings up by collecting passing by red balloons with rings inside. We are unable to damage Metal Overlord normally, so we must play on defense until our team blast gauge fills. It sucks that what I'm made of repeatedly gets interrupted by the team blasts, but beyond that, I like this fight. We could fill it faster by deflecting Metal Overlord's attacks as the appropriate formation. Sonic dashes through the crystal attack, as Amy puts it. Tails is needed to deflect these heat-seeking missiles that will capture your team otherwise. Finally, Knuckles is the only one who can bust through one of Eggman's ships being thrown our way, like it was as weightless as a feather. Metal Overlord will rotate between all 3 attack patterns, and after enough team blasts, he'll win. Oh, and he can also use Chaos Control, but I didn't get him to do that in my gameplay. In that case, where he uses Chaos Control, mash the buttons to make the timer go by faster, and you should be fine. The gameplay present here is incredibly simple once you figure it out, but smartly incorporates its themes with the gameplay. Team blasting is the only way you can damage Metal Overlord. So, technically, you can only beat him with the power of teamwork. It's really in your face about it, but that doesn't mean it's bad. This game's whole ending part is chock full of cheesy writing, but it's not bad writing. The cutscenes before the fight were incredibly direct in their delivery, but there's some complexity to be found in what Metal Overlord has to say to Sonic in the final hour. It's incredibly clear that Metal Sonic started all of this because of his identity crisis. He calls Sonic his loathsome copy, but says he was created to destroy him? Which is it? What we do know is he went through all this effort to prove he was better, and he nearly succeeds. He's not even his own person. He thinks he's the real Sonic. That's just sad. I almost feel bad for him, but he did try to go about ending the world over it. He kind of got what was coming to him, let's be real. Metal Sonic transforms back, being unable to grasp why he couldn't defeat Sonic.
Because we're Sonic heroes.
Title drop. This game is so dorky, bruh. Everyone runs off after having won the day, with Team Chaotic staying behind to collect their well-deserved dues. Shadow and Omega also stay behind with the defeated Metal Sonic. And there we have it. I reviewed the game from my childhood that got me into Sonic, while sick too. Woohoo! What a roller coaster this has been. Nostalgia is a wonderful thing, because objectively speaking, I can see exactly all the faults with this game. The control, the teammate AI, and then unforgiving drops into pits make this game very frustrating. Too many things simply don't work. The repetition to see the whole story is not at a quality standard to be worth replaying the same stages so many times, even if you really loved the game. However, I can see all the places where this game shines too. The stages are creative, expressive, and start off strong. There are many ways to proceed and many bops to be had. The gameplay formula is unique, if a bit too ambitious for what is clearly a game that needed longer in the oven to cook. Sega is a business, and the moment of time where Sonic Heroes came out, they were in a particularly precarious situation. The chase for cash nearly cost Sonic his continued existence, and it's unfortunate all around. So many Sonic games suffer from released before they were ready syndrome, even so premature sometimes that the game is obviously held together by duct tape. But there was passion present here in this game. Fun ideas were cultivated, but not fully formed. Today, we live with this 4/5 baked game, and I can't give the game a pass on how it fails to deliver based on my own fantasies. I cannot simply project my childhood feelings onto anyone else to suddenly make you love the game I do, but I believe it's a game that deserves a chance. We live in the world of remakes. Hey Sega, why don't you take a crack at going all in on remaking a title? Build it from the ground up and show everyone just what you're made of. In order to move with our best foot forward in life, we sometimes need to take a step back and reflect on our past to learn from it. I can't say anything for anyone else, but I would be happy to see it. Until then, I believe Sonic Heroes is worth a try. Maybe not a full playthrough, but at least one team. Not Team Chaotix, preferably. With all that said, here we are at the end of the video. I recently reached 1,000 subscribers while writing this script, and after recording and editing this all together, I'm sure our community has grown even more. To all of you watching, subscribed or not, thank you for getting this far. If you would like, please tell me what you thought of the video. Your feedback helps me make content better suited to you, and I can't objectively view my own work myself. As for what's coming next, we'll see.